It's a hot, muggy night here in Atlanta, Georgia, and a huge crowd is gathering on Friday night because Cub Nation has invaded Turner Field in Atlanta. The Braves begin the second half of the season and try to snap a 5-game losing streak in Game 1 tonight. Hi again, friends. Welcome to the second half of the season with Paul Bird filling in for Joe Simpson. Chip Carey, welcome to the ballpark. Paul, a 5-game losing streak. Not the way the Braves wanted to end the first half of the season, but plenty of excitement to look forward to as we begin the second half tonight against the battling Cubbies.
Absolutely. Young guys against young guys tonight, Chip. And if you're a Braves fan, do not leave your wingman. I know you may be a little discouraged of the way they ended that break in Colorado, but there's a lot of reasons to get excited about these Atlanta Braves. Young pitchers, guys to build on the future. I think you've got a great team out there. And no one expected them to run away with the division against the Nats, but we are going to compete. We are getting a lot of good players in here, and it'll be fun to watch.
And a lot of new players today. In fact, 7 different transactions were made by the Braves today, including the extension of the contract of Freddie Gonzalez and his staff. We will talk about that and a whole lot more. The Cubs and Braves kick off the second half in Atlanta right after the break. Atlanta Braves. In touch system with $1,800 in free equipment, including an exterior camera and touchscreen door lock. Please visit cpisecurity.com. Welcome to midsummer in Atlanta, a scorching day here in the heart of Dixie. The Braves and Cubs hook up in Game 1 tonight at Turner Field. Friday night fireworks, big crowd on hand, and Joe Maddon's Cubs are in town too. The Cubs at 47-40 on the year, 8 games off the pace in the National League's Central Division. They have a very young and potent lineup. Dexter Fowler, the Atlanta native, leads off their Academy Sports and Outdoor 9 with Kyle Schwarber just back up from the minor leagues. Miguel Montero on the disabled list with a bad thumb. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, the 2 young sluggers for the Cubs, both participated in the home run derby in Cincinnati. Jorge Soler, back from a bad ankle, is in right field. Chris Coghlan in left. Starlin Castro, the shortstop, hits 7th. The pitcher, Kyle Hendricks, 8th. And 21-year-old Addison Russell is the Cubs' second baseman. He'll be the 9th place hitter. The Braves will send Julio Teheran to the mound. Teheran has been very good here on his home field. Paul, he wants to kickstart his second half in good fashion. Teheran starts play tonight with a 6-4 mark.
He really does. The leader of this staff, they look to him. And Chip, you know as well as I, he pitches so much better at home. That's the good news tonight, being on his home field, and we'll see if he can put together a little better road half in the second half with his road starts. And you see right there, 5-0 at home with a 2.04 ERA, 10 road starts with that high ERA. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because he's not in Colorado or Cincinnati, where the park is drastically different than other places, other fields. So we'll see if he's able to make it happen tonight. His 4 keys to the game are this. The Chip, after every good start, he comes over and he says, I was aggressive, interviews after the games, and then third time's a charm. Sometimes when he faces the hitter 3 times, that third time through the lineup, he'll struggle, and we'll see if he's able to get deep in the game tonight and change that.
The Braves defense behind Teheran for game 1 tonight. Yuri Perez is in left. Canner Maven in center. Nick Markakis is manning right field. Around the horn, Kelly Johnson, Jace Peterson, Anderson Simmons, Juan Uribe, and A.J. Przinsky is behind the plate. We've talked a lot about the Cubs bats. Very young, very talented, full of potential. One weakness, though, Paul, this is a Cubs team that has struck out 799 times this year. That's over 9 strikeouts per game. That's 3 innings of no contact. As a major league starting pitcher, that's something you got to be salivating over, right?
It really is. And, you know, with the Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, I don't want to say that other guys in the lineup can't hurt you. But those 2 guys are the guys on this team, and you don't want to let them beat you. And, yes, with that high strikeout mark means they'll chase a little bit. Get some of these young players in situations where guys are on base, and you can get them to chase that slider, really use that aggressiveness against them, and I think that's why you see the high strikeouts.
And I think, too, this series is a fascinating contrast in organizational philosophies. The Cubs have drafted and developed a ton of young hitters. The Braves, as you know, aggressively drafting, developing, and trading for young pitching.
Yeah, I agree. We got young guys versus young guys, and Addison Russell, who's hitting 9th, is the youngest guy in the league. And certainly a lot of potential on the mound for the Braves with their young starters, and at the plate with the Cubs. It's going to be a very fun series to watch.
So Atlanta's Dexter Fowler is ready to lead off for Chicago. And Teheran's first pitch of the night is whacked off the glove of Kelly Johnson, and that's into right field for the start of the game for Dexter Fowler. We'll see how that's scored. 1 pitch, 1 runner aboard for Chicago in the opening inning.
Well, and welcome back, everybody. Kelly Johnson, you get a laser on the first pitch right off. That was a hard hit. We'll see how they score it. I think Kelly would tell you that he should have had it. And Kelly Johnson playing all over for the Braves until the Uribe's arrival. Saw a lot of action at third base, and he's over at first base. And as we say, Chip, the ball will find you right out of the gate.
It sure did. First pitch. And it's an error on Kelly Johnson. And that brings up Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber had a tremendous debut with the Cubs back in middle June. He had 8 hits, including a home run in interleague play against the Cleveland Indians. They love his bat, but Paul, they don't know if he can catch every day. In fact, he's, like many of Joe Maddon's youngsters, learning how to play his position at the major league level.
I talked to Joe before the game, and he said he is the best pure hitter he's seen in a long time. Young man can just simply put the bat on the baseball out of Indiana University. 4th pick in the whole draft, so you know this guy can hit. But yes, the question is, can he play behind the plate? And if not, you move him to the outfield, put him on a corner. He's got that good a hit, a swing, and we'll see what happens.
Schwarber, one of 3 catchers that are being carried by the Cubs on their roster. Taylor Teegarden and former Brave David Ross, the other 2. So Fowler at first. Schwarber in the batter's box, hitting second, right in front of Chris Bryant, who waits on deck. that's in for a strike outside corner. Teheran coming off a no decision last time out against Milwaukee. Gave up 2 hits, 3 runs in 7 innings, including a couple of homers. He's undefeated in his career against the Cubs. And that's in for a strike. Dan Iasonia is the umpire behind the plate. Fowler a short lead. And a base hit toward right by Schwarber. Fowler around second. He's on his way to third. And the Cubs have action immediately in the top of the first inning. Men at the corners and nobody out.
You see Pierzynski wanted that ball away, drifts back over just a little bit. I've always thought this, Chip, when you see a guy, one of the best pure hitters or a guy that can barrel a baseball, if they can hit the ball away, a fastball away, when it's elevated, as you saw right there, I know they've got a chance. And as a former pitcher, when I would see a guy with a high average, and, you know, Schwarber's been down a little bit, so he doesn't have the true number of at-bats. But when I see a guy that's had a good amount of at-bats and they have that high average, I know that I cannot make a mistake away up in the zone.
Well, you can't make a mistake with this kid. Chris Bryant, first Cub rookie in 7 years to be a National League All-Star. He's their team leader in RBIs with 51, team leader in walks with 46. And he's only 23. First and third for him, nobody out. And up and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. As you said a moment ago, you look at the Cubs lineup card right now, they're only 2 hot hitters. This is the first of 2, and they're in order. Bryant hitting third, Rizzo hitting fourth. And Teheran's got immediate trouble. Chase that pitch. 1-2.
Nice job exploiting Bryant's aggressiveness right there with the slider. Give him what he wants, what it looks like, a fastball. Nicely located, and as you said, Julio Teheran off to an immediate test in this game right out of the gate.
Bryant is a high power, high strikeout guy, and he just struck out for the 102nd time in 287 at bats. And that's a big out, because now you're a ground ball away from a scoreless top of the first potentially.
Again, that slider, when Julio Teheran is on, he usually has the ability to pitch to both sides of the plate with that fastball, and you will see a nasty slider. You'll see a lot of swings like that. Nicely executed.
But now a much tougher man to strike out. Anthony Rizzo has only struck out 46 times this year. 29 multi-hit games for the Cubs first baseman. And Teheran has another swinging strike. Something else to keep an eye on tonight. Cubs as a team hitting just .229 this year with runners in scoring position. They're 0 for 1 so far in this game. And up and away, even count.
As a pitcher, you like to early on establish the fact that you can throw a fastball to the inside part of the plate. Usually you will work away later in the game with that fastball just coming in to show. Teheran really doesn't have a chance to do that right now. He's in trouble, and he has to go to whatever his best pitch is he feels at the moment. And right now you're seeing it's that slider.
Fowler reached on an error at first on the first pitch of the game. Schwarber followed with a base hit to right. Bryant struck out swinging. And now it's an even count for first baseman Anthony Rizzo. And that missed low. 2 balls and a strike.
You had mentioned earlier, Chip, about Perezinski, and there you see the splits on Rizzo, lefties, righties, hitting lefties at a little better clip there. But you had mentioned Perezinski being so valuable to this team, and I agree with you. It's not just his bat. It's situations like this where you want that veteran catcher behind the plate who knows the hitters, who knows the pitcher. Giving him the best chance to get out of this jam.
So what does Teheran cook up? Paul, 3 balls and a strike here.
Well, this is the Tom Glavine don't give in time of the game. So I look for him to throw a slider or something other than a fastball away, maybe a fastball in.
It's a shot towards second. Jace Peterson, a diving grab. Rizzo lines out. And Adam Paul, a big second out here in the top of the first.
Nothing wrong with a little good fortune there, Chip. Hey, got an error by Kelly Johnson out of the gate, and so this ball hit hard by Rizzo. But like location, or real estate, I guess, it's all about location. And you see the dive. Nice play there by Peterson. Good thing he was in the right spot. He didn't have much time to move.
So Jorge Soler will take time and tuck in his uniform top, and then he'll stand in with 2 on and 2 out. Soler is only 23. And 4 homers, 21 knocked in, a .260 average, signed to a 9-year major league contract in 2012 by the Cubs. Born in Cuba, lives in Haiti.
Quite a story, and I was amazed at that contract, just to be honest with you. Until somebody gets to the big leagues, you're not 100% you're not 100% sure what they will do, and that one surprised me a little bit.
Down and away, 2 balls, no strikes.
The book on Soler is that he chases a lot. He's got big power. Teheran again going to that slider, trying to feed on that aggressiveness of the young Cubs hitters.
Soler missed some time on the DL with a bad ankle. Came off the disabled list July 5th. Has 7 hits in his last 30 at bats post DL for the Cubs. Two balls and a strike. Painted the corner. He's a strike away from getting out of this first inning mess.
Really like that pitch there. Fastball on the outside corner after the 2-0 slider. As a pitcher, you throw a 2-0 slider. Again, feeding on that aggressiveness. And I think the hitter was looking for another one. Fooled him with the 2-1 fastball.
That was high, full count. So Schwarber will get a head start from first. Chris Coghlan, who's done a nice job for the Cubs, waits on deck. Got a base open at second base. And a 3-2 pitch forthcoming to Soler.
I like the slider here, Chip. How do I get a message to Julio?
Payoff, runner goes and into the seats. Brzezinski was set up outside, but Soler whacked it foul to the right. Teheran's 21st pitch is popped up. Uribe at third base is going to make the play, and Teheran pitches out of a gigantic first inning mess. First and third, nobody out, and he shuts down the Cubs in the top of the inning. They had him at the corners, nobody out, and could not break through. That's the way you want to start the second half. Now let's see if Freddie Gonzalez and his offense can get something going here in the home half of the inning. Here's the Academy Sports and Outdoors starting nine. Peterson, Maben, Markakis first, second, and third. Kelly Johnson for Freddie Freeman at first base. Uribe Przinsky, Simmons, Yuri Perez eighth, Teheran ninth, and Kyle Hendricks is on the mound for the Cubs.
Kyle Hendricks, you can see that 22 1/3 scoreless inning streak. Hope that is broken shortly tonight, but you got to give him credit. He's done a nice job out of Dartmouth, Chip. We got to be careful of the smart guys here. And he can flat out pitch, moves the ball in, out, look for a good changeup. Ball will be moving, cutting, and running. I always am careful when I put anyone in a category of Greg Maddux. He's not there. I'm not doing that, but his style is similar.
You will certainly not be impressed by the radar gun readings, but you're often impressed by the results. Hendricks working on a 22 1/3 inning scoreless streak for the Cubs. Gets a bounding ball out towards second. That'll be easy for Russell. And there's the first out.
You saw Jace Peterson swing at a changeup. Kyle Hendricks' best off-speed pitch is a changeup, thrown at 19% of the time. Fastball, even though it doesn't have great velocity, he still uses it well. In, out, up, down, locates it, and he has a curveball and a cutter.
Something else to think about too, the Cubs staff as a whole on a very impressive run. They have not issued a walk in 25 innings and have not given up a home run in 57 2/3 innings. Braves will be happy if either one of those streaks comes to an end tonight. Here's Cameron Maben. Great July for Cameron. Bit of a hiccup in Colorado. He was 2 for 13 at Coors Field. Still hitting .289 for the year. That's a little low, even count.
If you notice, both those pitches were 87. One cut and one sank a little bit, and that's where you get in trouble as a hitter, when you start to guess one and it cuts, or you start to look for the sinker, and he throws that changeup. So this is a guy that can give you fits because everything looks the same. One goes one way, one goes the other.
Back up the middle, Cameron Maben with a one-out single. So Maben hits in 11 of 12 games this month, and he's a threat to run in front of Nick Markakis.
Nice job not trying to do too much with this pitch. Ball crept over the middle just a little bit. Didn't have that good sink on it that we saw, and he gets enough on this ground ball to shoot it up the middle. Cameron Maben, for me, has been one of the unsung heroes of this team that has just turned it around and been a very big, huge surprise.
Loves being closer to home. Comfort level with Kevin Seitzer. And a guy that was, yes, Paul, a throw-in all the trades we made with San Diego. He's been a huge lift.
He really has. A high first-round pick. He's got the speed, does a lot of things well. And it's nice to see him turn it around. And yes, as we've talked about before, working with Kevin Seitzer out in San Diego before he got here, was trying to instill some of those philosophies. So he was very happy to come over here and get to work one-on-one with Kevin. And I've got to give him credit, Maben, for listening.
High hopper off the bat of Markakis. Russell, nice play, and the peg to second in time. Maben forced out. Starlin Castro with the stretch. And Markakis at first with 2 outs now. Great range by the Cubs second baseman, who was raised as shortstop in the A's organization.
Very nice throwing across his body right there. And Joe Madden told me earlier that he is learning on the job and doing an excellent job with just not a lot of experience. Very, very young. And Hendricks so far is playing true to form with a lot of ground balls.
And a strike to Kelly Johnson. 9 homers, 33 knocked in for the Braves first baseman. Shift on for Chicago. Kelly's got the entire left side of the infield to play with if he wants to poke one that way. And that missed inside, even count.
Pitching him in with a cutter in right there. And yes, it's waiting for you, Kelly, if you can move the ball the other way, but it's easier said than done. And then the outfield's playing straight up. which says if the ball is in the air, they look at the scouting report that he can go the other way. But if it's on the ground, he usually pulls it.
Nick Markakis took off, and he's going to go all the way to third base. No one covered third base as the ball ended up in center field, and a wise play by the Braves. Find out if Schwarber can throw. That throw was airmailed to the second base bag. So Markakis will have a steal, and he'll take third on the error.
Markakis, nice job right here, popping up. And Chip, if this ball rolled away by 3 feet, he still could have rolled to third because there was just nobody even in the area. As you can see, nobody around. Nice heads-up base running by Nick Markakis. And as you said, forcing the issue early.
So let's see if Kelly can provide a 2-out hit. Bryant moves closer to the third base bag now that Markakis is there. And the pitch in the dirt. Something else to keep in mind. Don't know how good Schwarber is at blocking balls in the dirt. Runners at third base, got to be aware of that. Made a nice stop to force a full count there. Line drive, base hit, and the Braves break through. Atlanta manufactures a run. Kelly Johnson makes up for his first inning error, and it's 1-0 Braves in the first.
Kelly Johnson doesn't hit .380, but I tell you what, Chip, he gets some really big hits at the right time. You see that outside part of the plate. Going with the changeup, Kelly waits back, very simple swing, and drives it into right field. Nice job.
So that snaps the Cubs starters' scoreless streak at 23 innings. 1-0 for Uribe, who looks outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Now 2-0. Well, Juan Uribe's done a nice job for the Braves. He's hit 7 of his 8 homers. He's knocked in 15 of his 21 runs since putting on a Braves uniform. Two balls, no strikes. And a ground ball right side. Russell's got it. And a throw to first in time. The Braves put together a 2-out rally. Kelly Johnson's RBI single gives the Braves an early lead. A little of that home magic at work for Julio Teheran in the first inning. Cubs runners first and third, nobody out. Strikeout, line out, pop out, and the Braves bats gave him a lead on a Kelly Johnson first inning hit.
Yeah, picked up his teammate Kelly Johnson, Julio Teheran. Looks like he got in a little bit of trouble, but he went to the slider. Now watch this ball. His middle finger coming out of the glove. Looks like a changeup grip, but he puts it back on the baseball. Stays on the side. Throws a good fastball with slider grip. Looks like a heater, but it's not. And the next thing you know, he's out of it. Nice that he had that pitch going in the first.
Chris Coghlan leads off the Chicago second and looks to the ball outside.
And I got to give a shout out to our guys in the Fox truck with the camera work right there. It's a little like George Costanza. They see everything.
And that missed outside to Coghlan. 2 balls, no strikes. Coghlan, a former Rookie of the Year with the Marlins. He's found a home in Chicago. Nice complimentary player for the Cubs. And that's in for a strike. After his great season in 2009, a knee injury in 2010 really derailed the career of Chris Coghlan. But he has always been a solid major league hitter.
I agree, and at times he can be intense, and that's okay as long as you don't get too angry and affect other people around you. And Joe Maddon does a really nice job of working with the different personalities of players. My bench coach in 2005 with the Angels, I think that is his best strength, is getting players on the same page and working with many different types of players. And how about his dress code rules, Chip? I've got this for you. If it looks hot, wear it. If it looks GQ-ish, you can wear it. That's his only rules on the dress code.
Hot as in if it looks like it's going to keep you warm?
He said if you think you look hot in it, you can wear it.
Oh. That's tipped and caught by Brzezinski. Coghlan's down swinging. Teheran has his second strikeout. And that's out number 1 in the second inning. Well, look, the history of the Cubs is well known. Haven't been to the World Series since 1945. Haven't won it since 1908. Joe Maddon, a very cerebral, very thoughtful, very open to suggestion kind of manager who manages in a very free-spirited way. I think he's a perfect fit for the Cubs where they are now with all these young players and where they hope to go, if not this season, shortly thereafter.
I couldn't agree more. I loved playing for him back in Anaheim. Even though he was a bench coach, he was a guy that everybody went to. But when you're the head coach, a lot changes, a lot more pressure. And I have seen guys who were great as bench coaches who could not handle the pressure of being the head coach, the manager. And Joe Maddon doing a great job with that. We talked about the dress code earlier. He said, hey, I can have guys dress up, but it's not going to help you win. So I want to create a relaxed atmosphere where everybody can be themselves. And as you say, young guys respond to that.
And it's not an act from what I can tell from Joe Maddon. I mean, that's his personality. And again, you played for him as a bench coach with the Angels. This is not some show business act, is it?
It's not at all. And he said, you know, it's too hard to be an actor your whole life. It's too much work. He said, I'm just going to be myself, and if you accept me, great. If I have a style that rubs you the wrong way, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be myself. But I have got to coach in a way that he thinks brings the most out of his players. And he's had success with lesser talented teams getting the most out of those players.
Of course, Maddon's great successes came with the Tampa Bay Rays. As Starlin Castro couldn't check his swing, and he struck out. That's 3 strikeouts for Teheran, and the Cubs are doing what the Cubs do. That's miss a lot of baseballs.
And just when you think you're getting the nasty slider, Julio with a good fastball tonight gives you the high heat, 93 miles an hour. And we've got, as you said, a couple strikeouts already.
This is Kyle Hendricks, the Cubs pitcher's bat 8th. Talking with the Cubs broadcasters, Len Casper in particular, he had an amazing statistic. And this is part of the outside the box thinking that Joe Maddon employs as the Cubs manager. You don't bunt much in the American League, if at all. Bunting by the pitching staff is an integral part of a National League offense. Joe Maddon hates the bunt. Kyle Hendricks, the man in the batter's box, laid down the first sacrifice bunt by a Cubs pitcher, and that took place unbelievably on June the 13th.
I can't answer that. This gets back to the aura of Joe Madden. Why does John Lester not throw to first and get away with that? I don't understand that one either. But you have to give him credit because they're winning. They're 7 games above 500.
Ground ball to short. Andrelton's got it. Takes a peek at the baseball and lobs it to first in time. And Teheran has a 1-2-3 second. The Braves lead by a run. A.J. Pierzynski leads it off.
I'm Andre Aldridge. Now, Freddie Gonzalez isn't a laugh-a-minute guy like Joe Madden, but he's pretty excited about the fact that his contract was extended along with his entire coaching staff, and he found out about it before the series at Coors Field.
Yeah, we knew going into, and believe it or not, our guys, good for our guys. Nothing got leaked out. You know, we knew just before Colorado, and thank God we knew before Colorado, because I think after going to Colorado, they might have put it off the table.
Clearly tongue-in-cheek there. The offer would have been there, absolutely. But he's really excited about the fact that Kevin Seitzer, Roger McDowell, Carlos Tosca, coaches that you know are also extended, in addition to guys like Alan Butts and Horacio Ramirez, who work behind the scenes and work very hard to make things happen for this Braves ball club. And again, option for 2017, but the contract extended through 2016, guys.
Thanks, Andre. I think that's great news, Paul, and I think the job that Freddie and his staff have done under these circumstances certainly deserves a chance to see this retooling process or rebuilding process, however you want to define it, through for at least another year.
I agree 100%. I talked to John Hart, and he said it was the right time and it was the right term. The right time to give Freddie an extension and the right length of contract, and I agree. Has Freddie...
A.J. with a fly to right. And that's playable for Soler, who's got it, 1 out.
Has Freddie at times mismanaged the bullpen, according to some Twitter followers I have? Or has he put a lineup out there that people don't understand at times? Yes, he has. So has every other manager in Major League Baseball. We were just talking about why Joe Madden doesn't bunt. Everybody loves Joe Madden. But here's the bottom line for me. Since 2011, Freddie Gonzalez, 403.37. He's won with players that were not superstars. Huge high payrolls, and I believe that for the most part he's gotten the most out of those players.
And we will have Braves president John Hart joining us in the 3rd inning to talk about the extension of Freddie Gonzalez. A flurry of roster moves that were made today. 7 different transactions were made by the Braves today, and of course the elephant in the room is the Major League Baseball trading deadline is 2 weeks from today. And John Hart was very candid in the AJC with Jeff Schultz about where things stand as a ball club and where the Braves are and where he hopes to take them. Talking with John Campolella, the assistant to John Hart, Braves are open for business. I mean, it's no secret.
I agree.
They will look to acquire young talent. A strike.
I don't think anyone would disagree with their moves right there. There's a lot of reasons to like the Atlanta Braves. Starting out with the young pitching that he's acquired, you have to buy into what John Hart is doing, and as soon as you do that, I think.
Simmons takes a called third strike. Paint job by Hendricks. Let's check out the pitch. How close was this?
Well, every pitcher is going to want it, but as you can see, just nicking the bottom outside corner.
That was Maddox-like.
He got a little more. He got a little extra inch at times down there, but the catcher never moved his glove, so the umpires always told me that's why he got it.
Yuri Perez, the hitter, takes a strike.
But back to Freddie, as soon as you buy into what John Hart is doing with the move here with Freddie and the players that he's trading away, you know, I think you've got to be excited about a lot of the trades and the young talent they've got, even though some of them have hurt, losing Kimbrel or Jason Hayward, who everybody loved. But I think they were the right moves, and it's going to make the Braves better in the future.
That's back up the middle. Russell got rid of it quickly, lost his footing as he threw the baseball to first. But Addison Russell made a fine play, and he'll lead off the third for the Cubs. Franchise 4 t-shirt that includes the Braves Franchise 4 representatives: Henry Aaron, Chipper Jones, Warren Spahn, and Greg Maddux. Packages start at just $48 per seat, so visit Braves.com/franchise4 to take advantage of this limited time offer today. That's a good looking shirt. And 4 great names for the Braves Franchise 4, which was announced at the All-Star game in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, the American League won the All-Star game, but boy, was there a bevy of young talent on display at the Midsummer Classic in Cincy.
It was absolutely incredible to watch. I think the thing that amazed me the most were the pitchers that all threw 97, 98 miles an hour. And when Chapman came into the game, my son Colby in the living room was like an auctioneer. Can I get 102? He would hit 102. Can I get 103? He would hit that, and he topped out at 104, which to me was absolutely amazing and fun to watch.
Well, right now the auctioneer in Cincinnati is going to be Walt Jocketty, because they've got 3 or 4 players that may be on the block now that the All-Star game is out of the way at the Great American Ballpark. As Addison Russell bounces one out of play foul, it's at even count. Russell was acquired from the Oakland A's for Jeff Samardzija and Jason Hamill last year, and they really like this kid.
83 days in the big leagues, the youngest player currently in Major League Baseball. And they said he puts on a show in batting practice, but it hasn't quite translated to the game. And as you could see on that swing right there, the head pulled and front shoulder flew open, and he's thinking about hitting one of those banners up there. But when he learns how to do that, when to do that, I think he'll be all right.
Fly ball well hit toward right. Markakis on the run. He'll get there. And a step out of the warning track. Addison Russell is the first out of the inning. Time to look at our Home Depot tools from the dugout. When you hire a new manager, you look for immediate improvement. Let's compare the Cubs at the All-Star break this year versus last year.
You see the average right there is very, very similar. The ERA has come down half a point, but the 14 wins below 400, below 500 versus 7 games over 500 is a little baffling to me.
Fowler skies one out of play for a swinging strike. Well, the schedule for the Cubs is supposed to really ease up for them now. After the break, the Cubs have a stretch, we're told, of 17 consecutive games against teams with sub 500 records. Braves, Reds, Phillies, Rockies, Brewers. And after that stretch, they still have 15 games left with 2 clubs immediately ahead of them in the Central, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Pirates. So if the Cubs can go out and get some pitching depth, and if these young kids can click at the same time, there's a thought, Paul, that the Cubs could make a second half surge as they enter play tonight, the second wild card team, and 8 games out of first place.
Let's put it this way. They're very dangerous. You know, they are in a tough division, but if they just get into the playoffs, this team could hurt you. And I say that because they've got a lot of young guys. You don't know when they're going to get hot, how they're going to play, what they're going to do. And you're right. I do think they need another starting pitcher. We'll see what kind of moves they make. And as we look at Anthony Rizzo right there, one of the best young hitters in this game.
2 balls, 2 strikes for Dexter Fowler, pride of Milton High School, and acquired from the Astros for Luis Valbuena. And that's taken high. Here are the wild card standings. The Cubs are a game ahead of the Mets. You know why? 7-0 against New York. The Mets did not win a single game against the Cubs this year. And Fowler takes a walk with 1 out. So he's on base for a second time. That's the first walk for Julio in the game. And here's Schwarber again. Listening to Mike Farron and Jim Duquette today on MLB radio, and they had a perfect description for the physique of Kyle Schwarber. He's 6 feet tall, 235 pounds. They called him a fire plug.
That is pretty good.
But terrific offensive credentials, and already a hit tonight. And he takes low for a strike.
Not drafted out of high school, out of the state of Ohio, relatively unknown. As we talked about, went to Indiana University and proved that he was the best pure hitter in the draft.
4th pick a year ago, and he's already made his way to the big leagues.
And you're not supposed to do that because you're swinging the BB Core bat, which is an aluminum bat in college. You have to get used to wood. Then you have to get used to the rigorous schedule that you don't play in college, playing every day, getting on school buses. And then you face better pitching. Once you get up to AA and AAA, you're facing guys who are older, more experienced. They're competing to get to the big leagues, and it's hard to hit. And this guy just has not missed a beat, even going to the big leagues and proving that, I know it's early, but proving that, you know, he can handle the wood bat and he can handle great pitching.
No balls and a strike. And that's taken high, even count. So there's still a lot to learn about Schwarber's offense. But I think it's safe to say the Cubs feel a lot more certain about that than they do his work behind the plate. Can he frame well? Can he call a game well? Can he handle the running game? Can he simply catch the ball consistently?
Exactly. And but if you hit, they will find a place for you. I think it's the hardest thing to do in all of sports, and I probably offended some golfers out there, but the ball's not moving when you go and you swing to hit a golf ball, and there's not 8 guys in front of you wanting to catch it, and it's just very hard to hit. So when you have a young man that's the best pure hitter in that draft, who has power, who can hit for average, who can hit the ball the other way, that guy will be on this field somewhere. It's just a question of where.
Ground ball. It's another hit for Schwarber. He's 2 for 2. Fowler around second. Markakis is going to throw it toward third. No advance by the runner at first. And again, Chicago has him first and third, this time with 1 out. And again, it's Bryant and Rizzo coming up.
Julio Tron executing his pitch on the outside corner, and sometimes you just have to give credit to the hitter and tip your cap. Schwarber doing a nice job pulling that ball. He did not go with the pitch the other way, but had enough thunder on it to pull it in the hole.
Well, Julio got Chris Bryant to chase a slider or two. Let's see if he can get that or a ground ball. Chris Bryant, the second pick in the draft in 2013. You're hearing very high draft choices by the Cubs. What that means is they were having awful years the year before, a total rebuild for Chicago, and it was a long, painful process. But the benefit is the talent they were able to draft. Schwarber, a 4th overall pick. Bryant, the 2nd overall pick.
And even though you have those picks, you got to get them right. So you have to give credit to the Cubs scouting department for doing a nice job picking some position players that can flat out barrel a baseball.
1 ball, no strikes. Swing and a miss. And again, you look at Chris Bryant. Where do you pitch him?
Well, you know, I didn't go to Dartmouth, but if you see on that outside corner 143, you see 250, you see 089. When you see that over there, you have to stay away in crucial situations. This is why you've seen the first 3 pitches be on the outside part of the plate. Now, if you just stay away over and over again, Chris Bryant's going to scoot up, and that ball that's on the outside corner is going to be down the middle. But this is not a time necessarily to pitch him in and show him that you can go in. I'm going to stay away and try and exploit the fact that he struggles with the ball on the outside part of the plate.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Another slider takes care of Chris Bryant. One thing about this game, no matter how talented you are, if a pitcher finds a hole, word spreads quickly, and Bryant has struck out 103 times now.
And he's learning. In all fairness, he's young, one of the best young hitters in the game. Incredible hip turn, can explode on a baseball. But Julio, when he executes his pitch, especially that slider tonight, he's tough, and he has just hit his spots. And as we say, most of the time, good pitching beats good hitting.
Rizzo lined out to second. He hits with men at first and third, 2 outs, and he backs away, something he rarely does. Rizzo, very high on base percentage because he walks a lot and he gets hit a lot. He's been hit by a pitch 19 times this year. And down and in. 2 balls, no strikes.
I asked him before the game what he thought about when he got in the batter's box, and he said, I really don't try to think about anything. He said, I try to keep it very simple, see the ball, hit the ball, attack it. I do like to look away, but that's about it.
Braves aren't going to give him anything to hit. 3 balls, no strikes. Rizzo, a rare Cub who does better work on the road. Most of their young hitters have had the exact opposite type of success. And Pierzynski thought that was good enough. It's ball 4. That'll load him up. A.J. Pierzynski requests time, and Soler will be the hitter.
Well,
That ball was right down the middle, maybe a little off center, and definitely in the strike zone. And as you can see, Julio questioning home plate umpire Dan Iasonia, and he was right.
So first, second, and third for the Cubs in the third. They trail by a run, and Soler, the batter, he popped out to end the Chicago first.
Now here's where you have to be careful, because you want to exploit the youth of the Chicago Cubs right here in Soler, and you want to throw a first pitch slider, but you can't walk him. So you have to hope that he swings and make a quality first pitch.
And as a pitcher, why would you throw anything else than that pitch right now, the way the Cubs are swinging at it?
That's right. As a pitcher, first of all, you have to have that in the bag, which Julio does have. He's got a nasty breaking ball, and then you can still hang it when you throw it too much or guys see it too much, but he's done a nice job of keeping that slider down in the zone.
And that one missed, even count. A ball and a strike. Fowler at third. Schwarber at second. Rizzo is at first. A hit and a pair of walks in the inning versus Teheran, who pitches, and it's fouled back to the screen. He had a good cut. 1 ball, 2 strikes. A lot of deep counts for Julio tonight. He's about to make his 27th pitch of the inning. It is a very hot, muggy night. Two and two. Here's where you want action. Julio's got a good fastball tonight. That's good to see.
He does, and Julio at times can be in that danger zone where you don't know whether to throw the ball by somebody or just hit your spot. Sometimes it's 89, 90, sometimes it's 93, 94. There's a big difference between those two.
Little flare into left center field. It's going to drop and score a couple of runs. Jorge Soler. He's going to try for second, and he's going to be out by a mile. He didn't even bother to slide. Where in the world was Soler going? Thank you very much. He does provide a 2-out hit that gives Chicago the lead, but Joe Maddon's outfielder ran himself into a third out.
Hey, Soler comes through with the bases loaded. Single, tries to stretch it to a double, and you can see right here where he just kind of gives up. much to the dismay and frustration of Joe Maddon. Even though he came through with that hit, that's just a young mistake, and there's no excuse for not hustling or turning back around, and that was the frustration for Joe Maddon. He had the ability to turn back around and make something happen.
I can hear my grandfather now. Where in the world is that guy going, for crying out loud?
Well, you know, there was nobody at first base either. I thought he was going to stop halfway and go back. He just kept right on going.
And even if he gets in
take that.
Yeah,
a run down there, Rizzo has a chance to score, and it's about playing the game the right way, which is something that you know about.
Yeah, seats.
I'll tell you what, you know, looking up at this Cub club, you know, we've seen it come in the last 2 or 3 years. In the draft, they get a Bryant. They've made some nice trades. They picked up a Schwarber in the draft. I mean, these guys have got some offensive firepower. A lot of good young players. Soler they picked up internationally. It's a good young offensive club.
Fascinating contrast, John, between what the Cubs have done and what the Braves are trying to do. Paul and I talked about that earlier. Everybody talks about how baseball is starved offensively. The Cubs have stockpiled on terrific young potential bats. The Braves are stockpiling terrific young potential arms.
Yeah, it is a little different. And again, you know, listen, I'm an American League guy. You love to have these all these bats, but the more you hang around the National League, pitching at the end of it really plays. But you know, a lot of times some of it's just the luck of the draw, where you pick in the draft, and you kind of measure up what you've got. And you know, if you've got a young power bat like Bryant, and he's there, you're going to take him. And you know, so I think some of it's by design, and some of it's just by, you know, if you will, sort of the luck of the draw.
And the luck of the draw for the Cubs was a lot of 90, 100 loss seasons, which allowed them to pick first, second, or third in the draft. The Braves aren't going to do that. This parallel path that you and the front office have executed to this point, I think is really remarkable. As things stand now, we begin the second half of the season. Evaluate, if you would, where we are after 89 games.
Well, listen, I think all you have to do is look at the pitching staff. We've got 3 youngsters in this rotation. Obviously, Williams Perez is down right now. We've had Fulton Evans up. We've had a look at him. I was just watching our AAA game. Terrell Jenkins is up there pitching. I mean, the young pitching is starting to come, and I think it's important for these guys right now to get out there. That's probably been, if you will, probably the highlight for what we're doing. We didn't have that kind of expectation early that we were going to have these guys up here. And I think offensively, this club, even without a lot of power, certainly not having Freddie in the lineup doesn't help us. But I think overall, this club has really played the game the right way. They played hard. It's the kind of club that has fought all year long. Again, it's not a juggernaut, but it's a club that I think offensively, when it gets its opportunities, they're going to put some points up.
Was that description of this team the determining factor for you in extending Freddie Gonzalez and the staff today?
Well, I certainly was a part of it. And we told Freddie early that we were not going to. This wasn't a gauge on wins and losses. I tell you, spending a lot of time with Freddie this winter as we sort of walked down that path and knowing that we were going to be making some of these tough decisions that ultimately on a one-year deal were going to maybe influence his job. I mean, Freddie was absolutely on board. He realized and certainly bought into the fact that you know, we had to do some things that were going to be tough and painful and probably were going to affect the ultimate win-loss record with the ball club. But he was a big part of it there. It's a guy that loves the Braves. He cares. He loves his players. And he's got experience. And you know, you look around and the guy's a straight shooter, and I just think that there's just a lot of good things about Freddie that I think it can carry over as we go forward.
This is Cameron Maybin, who's turned into, John, one of the biggest surprises, I guess, in all the players you acquired. Maybin is having his best ever year in the big leagues.
He really is. And I remember all the way back in the draft out of Asheville, North Carolina. I love this kid. I mean, I thought he had some power and he could play center field. He's one of these sort of unusual type of center fielders that you didn't see much of. But, you know, I think getting an opportunity over here, I think he's really made some adjustments offensively, and he's played well for us. And I think offensively, you know, Kevin Seitzer, he gives some credit there to Kevin, but I give a lot of credit to Cam. I mean, he's come in and made some real adjustments, and he's helped this ball club a lot.
He takes ball 4, and he'll be at first with 2 outs. That's the first walk by a Cub pitcher in over 27 innings now. And the Braves with 1 2-out RBI look for another here from Nick Markakis.
I agree with you on Maven. Sometimes you'll see some of those older players, or not that he's old, but guys that have been up for a while and they don't want to change. You do have to give him credit, but it looks like that you have gone after certain types of players, guys who hustle, play the game the right way, good in the clubhouse, grabbing the young pitchers and putting together a team that's really fun to watch, versus, and not picking on anybody or anything, but last year there were a lot of strikeouts and sometimes it was painful to watch. You've gotten guys that play the game the right way.
Yeah, Bertie, we really did. And, you know, listen, we made a lot of trades, and when you're in the middle of the winter or late in the winter, sometimes you kind of, it's slim pickings as to what you go after. But, you know, we did make a conscious effort. Good makeup, guys that like to play, veteran guys that have been around winners, guys that were going to help our culture. Certainly was a part of it. And, you know, look, we said early on, this is not a perfect club. And I think offensively, we said, look, this is not going to have a lot of power. It's going to be a club that's going to have to, you know, pick up. We talked about two out RBIs. We're going to have to take the extra base. There's things we're going to have to do. And they've done it. And again, you know, the power, you love to have it. You love to have somebody protecting Freddie. I mean, we've got Nick Markakis that hit fourth a lot for us this year. He's not a four-hole hitter, but no. You know, when you look at it, you say, hey, this guy's a good hitter. He puts the ball in play, singles, double type guy. We just don't have the four-hole hitter, so you know we make do with it. But you know, Jace Peterson going through a little struggle right now, but I think watching him play has been good. AJ Brzezinski, just can't say enough about what this guy's done, especially with the young pitching. You know, I don't think a lot of people really realized what kind of a receiver he was and what kind of influence, how he studies the game and how he knows it. I tell you, I think you know, watching him, you know, at the twilight of his career, latter part of his career, this guy keeps asking me for he said either, you know, bench me or trade me. He said, man, I'm come over here to be a mentor and a backup, and I'm going to play 140 games.
No Crash Davis, huh?
Yeah, no, he's good. AJ's, you know, again, another one of those veterans that have done a really good job for us.
We'd love to keep you for another half inning because with 2 outs, because with all the transactions and the trade deadline coming up, we'd love to get your thoughts on that. But one thing that struck me in talking to a couple of the veterans, whether they are here or not after the deadline remains to be seen. But one thing that they did say collectively and individually is they feel a great sense of pride of having this Braves clubhouse in a better place than it was when they got here. How important is that to you as the guy that was the architect of all of this?
Well, listen, you know, you can answer that in a lot of ways, but well, that's nice.
Base hit to right, Markakis. Here comes Maven. He's going to score on this play. Markakis has himself two. He's going to turn and stop there. It is a 2-out rally for Atlanta, and the game's tied at 2 apiece.
I like that. I forgot the question. Anytime we can put points up, it's good. And you know, you talked about the top of the inning when they're hitting. That usually goes against my MO. Really? I'm not a good top of the inning.
Really?
Well, nothing good can happen for us unless 3 outs. I don't like to get up here and see us somebody put a 5 spot on us.
But Markakis, another one of those quiet veterans. The question was, as the architect of this, the clubhouse is in a much better place now than it was when you took this job. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. There's no question that you know, this is a group of guys. They care about each other. They care about the game. It's got a great work ethic around this ball club. You can lose 3 in a row. These guys are there early. They're game on. You know, look, there are clubs, and we've all seen them. Bertie, you might have played on them, where maybe you don't have good cohesive chemistry, but you've got tremendous talent. Sometimes that plays, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think for us, without, you know, if you will, sort of a gifted, talented club, I think that you know, their ability to connect and play the game the right way, it carries over. And I will say this: for every young player that walks in, they're going to be held accountable, and I think that's a good thing. Young players a lot, sometimes they get forced up here. They get force-fed to the big leagues. They're up here before they're supposed to, and you know, they're not really, you know, they're not sure exactly how to go about it. They look around this locker room and these veteran guys, the way they go about their business, it really has been good.
Is that something the game's gotten away from, in your opinion?
Well, I absolutely. I mean, you look here on their club, Addison Russell, they bring a young kid up and say, we'll teach him up here. I certainly understand that. You look at Soler, you watch that base running mistake down there. You know, there used to be, you talked about trying to give him 2,000 at-bats in the minor leagues. You know, you give pitchers 1,000 innings. That's not going to happen.
No.
And there's a lot of young players that are coming up that are probably here before their time, but we're going to teach them up here.
Ooh, high strike. Kelly not sure about that one. 3 balls and a strike. Braves got a 2-out run in the first, a 2-out run here in the third. We're tied 2 apiece. Visiting with Braves president John Hart. Hendricks pitch count climbing on a hot night. Game 1 of the weekend set, Braves and Cubs. Dodgers are in town beginning Monday.
I always felt like, too, as a young player, when you bring in a guy like Kelly Johnson who says all the right things, plays the game the right way, that affects you for the rest of your career as a young rookie. And that is invaluable when you have a nice mix of veterans who, as you say, play the game the right way. They're not necessarily superstars, but they've been around a long time because of that. And that's helping your ball club for years to come, even after Kelly leaves.
Well, it is, and I think that's why you look at clubs that have a franchise player that's a leader, those types of things. I mean, it does carry over. It's a good point, Bertie.
I'm going to ask you one question in the top half of the next inning, and we'll let you go. Is that fair?
That's fair enough.
All right,
that's
John
good.
Hart with us. 2 after 3 in Atlanta.
Stuff, low price every day.
Beautiful sunset tonight in Atlanta. We start the unofficial second half of the season. Good ball game so far. 2-2 Braves Cubs after 3. All right, we promised John Hart a quick and painless interview here in the 4th inning now that the Cubs are coming up. John, you have articulated a plan. You have put a plan in place. Now the trading deadline is 2 weeks away from today. How difficult is it to stick with the plan knowing all those points you made a moment ago? Freddie Freeman's not here. You got to find a way to find power, but you have all these young pitchers that you're bringing up through the system. How tough is that for you now?
Well, it is, and I think, look, you don't want to cast anything. We might run off 10 in a row, and Washington falls apart, and the Mets. I mean, look, we're here to win every game, but listen, we don't have to do anything at the deadline. It's I mean, we're at a spot right now. We've got some interesting guys, some valuable guys that we could potentially discuss if we wanted to deal and bring back more additional young players. If you're in the other situation, you turn around, and I don't see us abandoning that plan at this particular stage. We've acquired a lot of good young players. We've just gone through really the first draft that we like a lot of the guys that we got in that draft. We've got our first international signing. We've got some young kids in the minor leagues that we really like as well that are making progress. So, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for us to even consider talking about those guys. Look, I realize at some point that if we continue along this track and we've got some desirable young players that we don't want to talk about, but there's a position, in other words, pitching, and we've got a young position player we can acquire, or somebody that we're interested in, hey, you got to make a deal. You got to think about it. You might have to deal from strength, but I don't know that right now is the time for us to do it.
There's your first quick out, so you got to stick around for Paul's question.
Listen, this is easy right here. We go right there.
Well, this is not a question because we got to let you go, but I want everyone to know that you are texting Fred McGriff at 4:11 in the morning to remind him of a minor league pitchers meeting. That's the kind of energy that you have, and it's very much appreciated here.
Hey, listen, thanks, guys. Listen, I wanted Fred McGriff in there to tell our pitchers what not to do. Anytime you get Fred McGriff in there, I want him in the pitchers meetings.
Yeah, that's always a good idea. Bob Fly out of play. Well, John,
all right, guys.
I know you've got busy things going on, busy day transaction-wise. All the new guys out of the bullpen that are here.
That's a whole nother story right there.
And we promised you it was only going to be one question.
that could take us a little while here. I don't know if we want to go there.
It's a 6-page long press release, and we'll get to that in a little bit. John, keep up the good work. Appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll talk to you around the trade deadline too.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys.
Vice President John Hart. Busy day for the Braves. Big story. The extension of Freddie Gonzalez and his staff. John explained the rationale behind that. I loved Freddie's comment that Andre had when he said, well, it's a good thing they told us before the series in Colorado. Otherwise, they might have changed their minds after the Rockies swept 4 games.
That was good stuff. I really do admire John Hart's passion. And, he drafted me in 1991, and I think he saw me run out to the mound and flip a bunch of curveballs, not unlike that slider right there from Julio Teheran. Of course, Julio's much better. And after he saw my act, he said, hey, we got to get some 6'5" guys in here that throw 98 like Fulton Avich. As you can see, Julio outside corner slider has been outstanding all night long. Pierzynski doesn't move his glove.
Right now, the Cubs bats no like curveball. 5 strikeouts for Teheran. He's got the pitcher up there now, and Hendricks pops it out of play, foul. When we get to the home fourth, we'll show you the transactions list today. There was 7 different player transactions made by the Atlanta Braves today. A couple of new faces are in the Atlanta bullpen tonight.
Transaction list starting to look like War and Peace. I get a little confused following at times. Every day you have to be on top of it because there's so many things going on.
And that's the obvious ripple effect of just the horrible season-ending Achilles injury by Jason Grilli in Colorado. And there are 2 of the new men. Ross Detweiler, the former National left-handed pitcher, and then Jason Frazier, who had a good run going with Kansas City. Frazier also a terrific pitcher in his day with the Toronto Blue Jays. 0-2 to Hendricks, and it's high from Teheran.
I do not understand Frazier. In other words, he had a low ERA, 1.5 ERA, and the Royals released him. And he's 37 years old, so he's killing our age minimum over here.
Yeah.
We are still very, very young. Don't let that fool you.
Popped up. Pierzynski can't find it. Kelly Johnson's got a beat on it. He makes the play by the Braves on deck circle. High sky, tough time of night. And Kelly Johnson puts that in his pocket. Teheran has a 1-2-3-4. August 7th through the 9th when the Braves take on the Marlins. Join us Friday for great autograph chances, and on Saturday the first 20,000 fans will get a 1995 World Series replica ring. Get here early for the 6th annual Legends softball game also on Saturday. For tickets, go to Braves.com/alumni weekend. Game tied at 2 after 3. Let's take a look at our Toyota key plays of the game. As we told you, a very busy day. Recent transactions. Today, the Braves added Ryan Kelly, Jason Frazier, and Ross Detweiler to the bullpen. Joey Trdoslavich was also recalled from Gwinnett. David Carpenter designated for assignment. Jake Brigham, Mike Fultonevich sent to AAA. And, of course, Jason Grilli sent to the disabled list with the Achilles. Poor Brad Hange and Adrian Midgley are going to need a vacation with all the press releases they are issuing with all these Braves transactions.
They are. Now, Detweiler was, before batting practice, unsigned. By the end of batting practice, he was playing catch in right field.
Uribe hits one off the end of the bat toward left. And that'll be playable for Chris Coghlan. Makes the catch. There's the first out. I like the Detweiler signing a lot. We saw him pitch against the Braves with the Nationals, 2-pitch pitcher, and when he started against Atlanta, if memory serves, he gave up nothing to the Braves, but had rough sledding with Texas. Didn't win a game. He was 0-5 as a starter this year.
I agree. With him being left-handed, the Braves need that out of the bullpen. It's something to help Avalon out.
Here's AJ. He flied out to right field his first time up. You've heard John Hart mention Tyrell Jenkins. He is pitching tonight for Gwinnett. I'm trying to get a score for you on that game. Jenkins had a beauty in his first AAA start. Williams Perez, by the way, made a rehab start yesterday. He's coming back from that injured foot suffered against the Pirates up in Pittsburgh. Perez threw 2 1/3 innings, 1 hit, an unearned run with 3 strikeouts. He threw 45 pitches. The Gwinnett Braves bullpen gave up 5 hits over 5 2/3 innings, including a perfect frame from Andrew McKirahan, who was eligible to come back from his suspension July 20th. So you might see McKirahan back with the big league club sooner rather than later.
You're telling me we got more moves coming?
Pretty good chance.
Be interesting to see how everything plays out.
Lucas Sims at Carolina gave up a run over 6 innings, struck out 8 yesterday. As AJ spoiled a good pitch. Rio Ruiz drove in 2, reached base 3 times for the Mississippi Braves yesterday. They won 15-10 in 10 innings over Jacksonville. Rome swept a doubleheader versus Charleston yesterday as Brzezinski lines to center. Danville beat Elizabethton 3-1. The Gulf Coast League Braves were washed out. Two outs for Andrelton. Got to get him going. He's 4 for his last 23. And off the plate. 1 ball, no strikes. Tyrell Jenkins is into the 4th inning for Gwinnett with a 5-3 lead. They play in Syracuse. Ground ball to first off the bat of Simmons. Rizzo will take it to the bag on his own, and it's a perfect inning for Kyle Hendricks. Atlanta, where this game moves to the 5th inning. And we mentioned some of the superlatives in the minor leagues. Here's some more of them, a minor league update for you. And this is what's exciting. It's not just pitching prospects, Paul, that the Braves are excited about. Some position players are making their voices heard.
Well, we've heard about Peraza for a while now. It's just a question of when he will be ready and how he will do at this level, as well as some others.
So Teheran's got an even game here, 2-2, with Addison Russell coming up. He fly to deep right his first time. And a comebacker up the middle. That one right over the second base bag, and Peterson's throw. And Kelly Johnson tried to deke Russell into breaking towards second base, but the youngster did it right. He's got an infield hit to start the 5th.
Russell, nice job hitting the ball up the middle. Jace, throw a little off base. He didn't have a lot of time to go after. Then, as you said, Kelly Johnson, you see Teheran with the little behind the back glove flip. And then, as you said, Kelly Johnson runs over to first base as if he missed the ball. He's sneaky. You got to watch that, Kelly Johnson.
Might pull the hidden ball trick before it's all said and done.
Well, when you're under 21 out there, they got to test you.
Here's Dexter Fowler. He's reached on an air. He's walked and he's scored one of the 2 Cubs runs. A little squibber. Let's see if Simmons can turn it. He can. Easy double play. 4-6-3, 2 out.
Very needed right there from Julio Teheran. The times he has gotten in trouble, it's been that top part of the lineup. I thought trouble may have been brewing a little bit right there. Excellent job getting the ground ball double play right to Jace with the little flip. Love watching these guys work, and Russell's got to be careful. He's got to slide directly into that bag. Can't go too far out of the way.
Third double play by Dexter Fowler. Now Kyle Schwarber bats. He's 2 for 2. And to your point, Paul, nobody is going to quibble about his catching if he bats 1,000.
And I would say this, if you are really that good of a hitter, and that's what everybody's waiting to find out, we don't want you catching, because we don't want you sitting on your knees the whole game and giving away that 7th or 8th at bat in the 7th or 8th inning, because you're usually a little tired. So sometimes they'll move guys out from there if they're truly that good of a hitter, and that'll be a choice up to that Joe Madden will have in the future.
One ball, one strike. Are these uncomfortable games as a big league pitcher when you have so many young players that you haven't seen live before?
Yes. If you're a control guy that throws 3 or 4 different pitches, as Julio Teheran is, to different sides of the plate, it's uncomfortable because you don't know their tendencies. You don't have a major league scouting report with a lot of history. But if you are a guy that's going to throw 96, 97 miles an hour, you're going to go on the outside corner, inside, and it doesn't matter who walks up to the plate. You're not going to change your game plan. Then no, you're not uncomfortable. So it really depends on the pitcher.
Julio has struck out 5. He has scattered 4 hits, and the 2-2 pitch is yanked fair and into the right field corner. Schwarber's on his way to second. He's got a 2-out double, and the double play looming awfully large right now.
We need to stop talking about this guy because we cannot get him out, Chip. Young player here again. Slider on the outside part of the plate. Pulls it down the line, head on the baseball. Great, nice, simple swing, and puts a lot of thunder on it just inside the foul line. This guy can hit.
So all Kyle Schwarber has done in the big leagues is go 11 for his first 25.
That's a nice compliment, too, with Chris Bryant and Rizzo. Things starting to kind of come together here for the Cubs. And Chris Bryant, I wanted to say this earlier, when he was 9 years old, was nicknamed by a teammate, Bryce Harper, and he was called Silk.
Really?
How about that? It's a pretty good travel team.
That's taken a little low. 1 ball, no strikes. Think Bryant's going to see a slider or 2 here?
Well, and here's one of the troubles is Julio Teheran usually struggles third time through the order. The averages get higher. So you want to pitch guys differently. But if somebody has a glaring weakness like this, you can stick with it. It's just a question of how many times can you go to the well. As you see, Bryant now is no longer swinging at that.
So now it's up to Teheran to make the adjustment. As Bryant's way ahead in the count, 2 balls, no strikes. Team leader in RBIs for the Cubs, 51 of them. Two balls, no strikes, dangerous pitch. His breaking ball popped up foul and out of play. Bryant matched up with Albert Pujols in the first round of the new and improved home run derby during the All-Star game. Bryant hit 9 homers but lost to Pujols, who hit 10.
Tough first round matchup.
Yeah. Two balls and a strike. Good fastball, threw it right by him. 2-2. Now he's got that lower outside corner set up, Paul, if he wants to go there.
Absolutely. And you can see the 24% down here on the bottom of the screen right there is where you want to be, where he sees most of the pitches, staying out of the middle. And there's no reason to change when you saw the batting averages earlier where he struggles down there. Now, there's always a question of how many times can you go back to the well. So if Julio's throwing 4 or 5 or 6, at some point you have to change and make him respect the ball in, or he will start to dive. It's just a matter of when you do that. And every time Bryant has come up, unfortunately, there's been people on base and in scoring position.
First and third in the first. First and third in the second. Now he's got Schwarber at second. And 2 outs in a tie game.
Schwarber looks like a linebacker out there at second, doesn't he?
Let's see if he runs like one if Bryant makes contact. And he didn't have to. It missed high, full count. Rizzo's next. Braves want to see him in the 6th. Ross Detweiler begins to loosen up. He's stretched out again as a starting pitcher. He can be the first long man tonight if needed.
This is the parts of the game that I love, Chip, where I just enjoy pitching and the competition, the cat and mouse. What are you going to do? I've got him throwing a 3-2 slider right here.
He did, but it was off the plate. So Bryant forced a deep count, took a walk, and now 2 are on for Anthony Rizzo.
I think that was the right pitch selection, throwing a slider. The ball was down. I'd have liked to have seen it as a strike, and Freddie Gonzalez going to make a change.
So after 90 pitches on a steamy night in Atlanta, Freddie Gonzalez will take the ball from Julio Teheran. He will depart in a 2-2 game. No chance to win it for Julio tonight.
Delta Airlines, and your local Ford dealer.
Fans, slug your way to the Home Run Derby crown and master the free award-winning game millions are playing. Download MLB.com Home Run Derby free on the App Store and on Google Play. Early departure for Julio Teheran tonight after 90 pitches. He leaves with 2 on, 2 out, and a 2-2 score. And welcome to the Atlanta Braves, the 29th pitcher to toil for Atlanta this year. That's left-hander Ross Detweiler.
That ERA a little higher than you'd like to see, of course it is. A little over 7. 0-5 record, but as you say, a starter. Now he's coming out of the pen. We'll see if that changes things. And I can say as a player, sometimes when you get traded or picked up somebody and you get a fresh start, it changes your outlook, the way you think, and things turn out okay. So we'll see what happens here.
Detweiler, a former first-round pick of the Nationals in 2007. And he's got a tough assignment. Anthony Rizzo, who hits lefties very, very well. 2 on, 2 out. And way outside. Funny scene, Paul, when Detweiler came in the game. You see A.J. Pierzynski walk out and almost introduce himself because he hasn't had a chance to work with Detweiler until live action tonight. So this is not a comfortable sequence, I'm sure, for A.J. Pierzynski in a tie game at 2.
I would love to know what was said right there. I wonder if he said, "What do you got?"
There are the numbers for Anthony Rizzo. A lofty .338 batting average against left-handed pitchers. And that's taken low. 2 balls and a strike.
And if you're saying, why did Freddie Gonzalez bring in Detweiler right now with a better batting average against left-handed pitchers? You'll see against righties he hits a lot more home runs, and the difference between a 300 hitter and a 250 hitter for an everyday player is 1 hit a week. So you're going to trade the chances that he would get that 1 more hit, and hopefully he doesn't hit a home run.
This situation a little similar, you might recall, a couple of years ago when Scott Downs was acquired by the Braves, and he flew from Anaheim, got to the ballpark as the game started, and then entered the game with the bases loaded and actually introduced himself to his teammates in a huddle on the mound. Almost the same situation for Detweiler here. Not as deep a trouble. It's only first and second. But now he's got a full count on Anthony Rizzo. 29 pitchers have pitched for Atlanta this year.
And I've always felt in situations like that, it's easier for the pitcher. He's going to throw what he's going to throw, but it's tough on the catcher. A.J. Pierzynski not seeing his stuff.
Bouncer to short. Simmons has it. The peg to first, and welcome to Atlanta, Ross Detweiler. He got Rizzo to bounce out. He keeps the game tied. 8-9-1 coming up for the Braves in the 5th. field. Here's a look at their CPI security defense. Bryant, Castro, and Russell, 3 terrific talents learning on the job. That trio is combined for 36 of the Cubs' 61 errors this year. And that leads us to our AT&T Universe trivia question. Chris Bryant has 51 RBIs this year. Since 1990, which rookie third baseman has the most RBIs in a season? Since 1990. That might be the clue. Here's Yuri Perez. He takes a ball low. Those of you wondering where Joe is tonight, he's got some scheduled family time. He'll be absent for the Braves Cubs series. He'll join us on Monday when the Dodgers come to town. So we're thrilled to have Paul Bird upstairs for our 3-game set over the weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love listening to Joe as much as everybody else. So I'm missing him. And maybe next time we get a Joe Simpson jersey in the background.
We could.
A little tribute.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And pop fly foul out of play. Joe said he was going to work on his tan. That was something he was really concerned with in Denver. So.
Gotcha.
We'll check him out on Monday night. This is a critical stretch for the Braves. Critical in this regard. They've got a lot of tough games ahead. The next 4 series are very, very difficult. We've got the Cubs, we've got the Dodgers, and the Braves hit the road. Fly ball to center. And Fowler's got it. A 3-city road trip coming up for the Braves beginning on Friday. Weekend series in St. Louis, then to Baltimore, and then Philadelphia. Johnny Gomes will pinch hit for Detweiler. So Julio Teheran, 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He did not pitch long enough to qualify for the win. Now the game in the hands of the Braves pen.
Johnny Gomes with a lower average than you'd like to see, but he's got some big hits, some big home runs this year for the Braves. One of my favorite leaders in the clubhouse. The other day, with a mega microphone sitting in his chair, making sure all of his teammates were staying in the fight. And you need guys like that.
One ball, 1 strike. And that's off the plate. One more note on Detweiler. 29th pitcher, 50th player used so far.
That's 2 full 25-man rosters.
Yep.
Impressive.
Impressive that you have that much organizational depth to be able to do that. I don't think you could have said that at the end of last season. 3 balls and a strike for Johnny Gomes. That's a strike, full count. Dodgers are trying to help out the Braves tonight. LA's in Washington and winning that game 2-1. Nationals having trouble scoring runs, not surprisingly. They've got a lot of their regular players hurt and hurting. It's Zimmerman and Bolsinger matching up in Nationals Park tonight. Nationals have a 2-game lead over the Mets in the East. The Mets are in St. Louis and leading the Cardinals, who are also in a bit of a dry spell. The Cardinals have lost 9 of their last 14 games. That's Syndergaard and Lance Lynn. Terrific matchup at Busch Stadium. Pitch. And Gomes stays alive.
I've got to tell you, Chip, if you're a young man at home watching this, 10, 11 years old, and you're putting your dreams together, please don't feel like you have to do what the guys did in the All-Star game and throw 98 miles an hour. This young man out of Dartmouth, not an ACC, SEC, Pac-10 school, went up, got a great education. He's brilliant. And he's working 87 to 89 on the corners and getting outs all night long.
Castro kicked it. Gomes hustled and beat the rap at first.
May have got away with one right there. I'm not sure what they will do, but it was undeniable that we saw the end of the play. What made that play work was a ground ball to shortstop and Johnny Gomes getting out of the box as fast as he can, finishing it up. Looks like the Cubs are going to stall a little bit and try and make a decision.
Yeah, they're going to challenge this call at first on the bang play off the bat of Johnny Gomes. The original call was safe. Is there enough evidence to overturn the call? And from that angle, he looked out.
He looked out, and it's not a catch until it enters the webbing of the glove. It used to be that it had to lock in the back of the glove. Now it's just midway through where it looks like have some control of it.
So Johnny Gomes, a man of his word. He talked all spring long about no matter the circumstance, this team will run hard. They will bust down the first base line. Hasn't happened every time. I bet you 98% of the time it has happened. For the moment, he's safe at first, but the verdict is in, and Gomes will be ruled out at first. So a successful challenge by the Cubs. That's the second out of the inning, and the sixth consecutive man retired by Kyle Hendricks. So with two outs, Jace Peterson's the batter, and he's the subject of our Coors Light Cold Hard Facts. His bat's gone cold for the last 19 games, and he's 0 for 2 tonight.
The one thing you would worry about when a situation, and that's 75 at bats, and that's a lot of at bats, is that people are starting to figure him out.
There's a shot on the first pitch. That's going to bounce off the base of the wall. Soler has to chase it down. He does, and Peterson with a 2-out double.
And thankfully, after that double, it may be something mechanical. So if there's a guy that just cannot hit a breaking ball and someone finds that out and you see that over and over again, then you say, okay, he's not the hitter we thought that he was. But if it's the fact, and as Jace was, hitting curveball sliders earlier, doing the job, then you say, you know, it's just one of those rough stretches and it's just baseball. I believe it's the latter. Only time will tell, but I love watching this young man play the game, dive, hustle, and swing the bat. And I asked Joe Madden how he knew with all of these, and you can see Maven right there with runners in scoring position, how he knew when a young player was ready. And his thought was this: how do they handle failure? And I thought that was brilliant. And you could say the same thing about Jace Peterson right now. You're getting ready to find out how he is going to get through a tough stretch, which all hitters go through.
Well, you saw Maben's work with runners in scoring position. Both Braves runs have come with 2 outs. Let's see if Cameron can break a 2-2 tie.
Again, 87 miles an hour on the corner. When I played into my career, 09 was my last year. Greg Maddux had the second lowest velocity at 84.3 mile per hour fastball average. You ready for number 1?
Paul Bird.
No, gosh.
No?
You're so close. Jamie Moyer, 80.9 miles an hour.
He used to tie the Braves in knots.
You don't make your high school team now if you're throwing 80.9 miles an hour, right?
I think that's the great shame of the game. Instead of guys learning how to pitch, guys just learn how to throw as hard as they can, and they break.
A lot of truth to that.
I don't know if Jamie Moyer ever had elbow or shoulder problems, but I'll bet you he didn't. He had a remarkable career with the Cubs and the Mariners and the Phillies.
He would just lull you to sleep with that fastball, and then he'd throw a slow curveball, and then the Bugs Bunny changeup would stop halfway to home plate, and you were just frustrated.
That's Chris Bosio. He's the Cubs pitching coach. Like Jamie Moyer, Chris Bosio, a former Mariner, he threw a no-hitter in Seattle. And Lou Piniella was the skipper, and Maben chased a high fastball and couldn't stop his swing. Game still tied. We head to the 6th, 2-2 in Atlanta tonight. $1 in free equipment, including an exterior camera and touchscreen door lock. Please visit cpisecurity.com. 2-2 is your score, top of the 6th inning. We've talked about it a couple of times tonight. Two organizations with very bright futures. This came from our friends at Baseball Prospectus. The top prospects entering 2015 for the Cubs. Mostly position players, with the exception of Carl Edwards Jr. For the Braves, mostly pitching prospects. In fact, in the first 500 picks of the draft this year, the Cubs drafted 9 pitchers, the Braves 14 pitchers. And so as we look toward the trade deadline this year, perhaps the trade deadline in years ahead, as John Hart said, who knows, the Braves and Cubs might be tailor-made for each other as far as being willing trade partners. The Braves are looking for bats. The Cubs are looking for arms. Perhaps down the road there'll be a match that fits for both Theo Epstein and John Hart.
That's a great point. And as we look at all those banners across the wall right there, what we're seeing is a philosophy, a winning streak that was unmatched. And during that time, it was all about pitching. Do not, Bobby Cox would say, don't trade my pitchers. Don't trade my pitchers. And you could see their philosophy. And Roy Clark, I think of when he said in this draft, we're getting back to championship caliber players, and it starts with dominant starting pitching, and they've made choices to do that. But you're right, let these pitchers develop, and then if you have 10 or 12 of them, which could very well happen, you do have the chance to trade and grab a big hitter.
This is Ryan Kelly. He's the 3rd pitcher of the night for Atlanta. Kelly, as we showed you earlier, was just called up. Second stint with the club. He was selected June 28th. Debuted in Washington, pitched a scoreless inning, and then was sent right back to AAA. Got a late break toward first. Kelly Johnson hit him on the run, and Kelly got Soler at first for the first out. Little do-si-do around the first base bag there.
Excellent job of Kelly right here, going to first base. This ball's hit to second base, so he does not think he's going to have to cover. Kelly Johnson, being a great athlete, can get to that ball. Jace didn't get a good jump on it. And then we got a little quarterback action right here, throwing off the back foot on the run. and hits him right in the chest. That's not an easy play.
I think Jace is giving Kelly an earful. Hey, let somebody else handle the ball. You get all the ground outs over there. Let me take one. Would have worked out. Kelly was very impressive in the minor leagues for the Braves. Not a big name, but a man that had big results. 16 of 17 saves between AA Mississippi and Gwinnett. A 4-2 record, a 0.94 ERA. He's not a kid. He's 27. But Ryan's done good work.
Freddie Gonzalez wasting no time putting him in the game. 2-2 game here in the 6th inning. Some would say, hey, maybe not the right situation.
Line drive by Coughlin to center. And Maven plays that on a hop.
Others would say that
saw that ball off the bat.
That's the toughest play for an outfielder, that line drive that's right at you. You're afraid that if you charge it, it will end up going over your head if you misread it. And you can see he's playing perfectly. Just stood him up a little bit. I think if he wished he could do that again, he would charge harder and possibly even give a little dive. But the point I was making is some people say, hey, wait. But I can tell you, as a pitcher who started with the Mets in the bullpen, it is like torture sitting there not knowing when you're going to get in. Seeing other guys. So I actually applaud Freddie Gonzalez for putting this young man in this position and seeing what they're made of.
Starlin Castro, the hitter, with a man aboard, 1 out. Castro has struck out twice. He is signed through 2019 by the Chicago club. There's a bit of history for 25-year-old Starlin Castro. There are only 3 shortstops in the history of the Chicago Cubs who've made the All-Star game at least 3 times. Castro is one of them. Don Kessinger and the late great Ernie Banks. And everybody in baseball misses Ernie Banks. Passed away earlier this year. Mr. Cub. And the Cubs wear Ernie Banks' number on their uniform sleeves this year.
True pro. When I was playing for the Braves, he came in at Wrigley Field and gave us a little talk in that tiny locker room that'll never change. It was certainly a great moment for me, being a fan of the game and having so much respect for him.
Ernie Banks, a lifelong Cub, began his pro baseball career at 19 years old. Bouncing ball up the middle, right guy covers, tag, throw, double play. The Braves guessed right, and Castro hit into a double play with Coughlin tagged out by Jace Peterson. And that ends the 6th inning. Everything going right for the Braves the last couple of frames. 2 double plays helps keep our score tied at 2. hit to right. Markakis. Here comes Maven. He's going to score on this play. Markakis has himself two. He's going to turn and stop there. It is a two-out rally for Atlanta, and the game's tied at 2 apiece. That was our Yellowwood brand bringing the lumber feature. Two-out run-scoring hits for the Braves tonight. One by Nick Markakis, one by Kelly Johnson. And that duo is who leads off the Atlanta 6th. Down and in. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Nick Markakis doing a little bit of everything for the Braves this year, from hitting at different spots in the lineup to hitting the ball to off fields to being a really nice pickup. And let's face it, after neck surgery, that's a big deal. You don't know how a player is going to play, but he has certainly been outstanding on the field and in the clubhouse.
Nick 5 points away from that magical mark of 300. And he's down on strikes. That's out number 1. 5 strikeouts for Hendricks tonight. And that's how the Braves' 6th inning starts. Here's Kelly Johnson. Paul, how many times were you traded in the major leagues?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well,
let me ask you different.
7 different teams, 2 of them twice, so 9 different teams. My wife, Kim Bird, moved us 54 times.
54 times.
So it gets a little foggy, but traded at the deadline once. Thought I was getting traded.
That's what I was going to ask you. With the deadline 2 weeks away, as Kelly pops one out to play, the veterans on this team know the deal. I'm sure they were told that when they signed here, that look, we don't know how this season's going to work out, but veteran guys who can play, who have the leadership skills and the talent, are probably going to be valuable commodities for another club. As you heard John Hart say, it's not a given that he's going to move these veterans, but I'm sure that teams are going to call and ask. But from a player's perspective, what are these 2 weeks like leading up to the deadline when your team is probably playing for the future 70% and 30% for now?
Well, first of all, I always just loved playing baseball, period, regardless of the situation. But yes, you get a little excited. You can start to maybe pitch for the scouts. I know I did a little bit in Kansas City one year when I was being rumored to being traded and nothing ever happened.
Into the shift, bouncing ball toward the shortstop. And is that Starlin Castro or is that?
That's
Russell. No, it was Russell. Russell's the man that made the play. Yeah, Bryant's the man that shifted over, so it's a 4-3 put out. Beg your pardon, Paul.
I thought you meant the person that received the ball there.
Oh, and they called catcher's interference. Didn't see that. Thank you very much. So Kelly Johnson's aboard on catcher's interference. Yep.
That's tough right now with Schwarber, as we talked about, learning the game back there. More questions on his throwing and receiving, but right there, that's we'll see how that turns out. But usually the game comes down to those little things, and we'll see if the Braves can make them pay. You can see on the backswing there, tipping the webbing of that catcher's mitt, which definitely slows up the bat.
So Kelly Johnson at first, 1 out. It's an error on Schwarber. And the count to Juan Uribe now. 1 ball, no strikes. So these are, you said excited. Excited as in you're excited about the opportunity, or excited because you're nervous not knowing what your fate's going to be?
A little bit of both, but you know, some players take that personal, like why would they trade me, or why wouldn't they do this or that, and I never took that personal. I always felt like the team wanted me in the first place or I wouldn't be there. And then if somebody wants me more than that team, why do I not want to go there? And again, I like playing for playing baseball, period. But, you know, sometimes if you're on a team that's struggling, that is, you know, they're sellers, it's exciting to go to a team and you don't know who that is that's usually in the lead or a big pennant chase. And there's a lot of energy with that. So I think if you are one of those players, you're kind of in a win-win situation.
mean, in the case of Kelly Johnson, Juan Uribe, A.J. Pierzynski, Johnny Gomes, it's not like they've spent their whole careers with one club either. So I would imagine if that turns out to be the case for those guys, that it's a much easier situation for them to handle, both professionally and certainly personally, because as you said, your wife moved you how many times?
54.
Okay.
I played for 19 years, and it just that's why I retired. She said I can't do it anymore, and we had 2 little boys, and it took us 5 years, Chip, just to get a dog, because she said I can't have anything else going on other than what we do have.
And that's the part of the trade deadline that all of us in this sport, I'm sure, forget about. Yeah, it's great to talk about potential moves, but the impact it has on families and kids and everything else, that's really the business and tough business part of professional baseball or professional sports, period.
It really is. It's a lot tougher on the wives, because for the player, not a whole lot changes. You're going to go to the park from the same time, and you're going to compete against the same guys. But a situation like Pierzynski, who lives in Orlando, it's not going to be as big a deal as if Kelly Johnson moves, whose wife is from here and lives here and is really, really enjoying it. So it may be a tougher situation for him versus Pierzynski.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The count for Juan Uribe. 1 on, 1 out. And a bouncing ball toward third. The peg to second, 1. High throw to first and safe. Uribe hustles down the line to keep the inning alive. Bryant got it started, slow developing play, and the inning will continue for A.J. Pierzynski unless Joe Madden challenges this call at first base. Not sure if he's going to challenge, but he might go get his pitcher. And clearly Uribe appeared safe at first base. And that is going to be the end of the night for Kyle Hendricks. He will go 5 2/3 innings. And he's allowed 2 runs so far and only 4 hits. Both starters had early nights. High pitch counts, high heat, high humidity, and frankly high drama now with a 2-2 game. And A.J. Pierzynski is coming up.
I was very impressed with Kyle Hendricks tonight. He was as advertised. Worked balls, different parts of the plate, movement, great changeup. And it was nice to see somebody come in and compete with not necessarily lesser stuff, but lower velocity.
So while we await the new Cubs pitcher, let's check in with Andre Aldridge. A very special story and a great bit of philanthropy from Braves relief pitcher Jim Johnson, the Operation Grace White Foundation. And Andre, you have more on that.
All right, Chip, thanks a lot indeed. And in today's times, we can just remind you quickly that the Grace White Foundation has a Facebook page that you can check out and find a little bit more about. But Grace White is a 6-year-old girl who unfortunately has the terrible cancer that's DIPG. It affects young kids, usually between the ages of 5 and 7. Inoperable brain tumor is what she has. So today, Jim Johnson had young Grace and her family come here for batting practice, and she was able to come out here and kind of see some of her heroes and stuff. But it's a very tough story for a young lady who's fighting a tough battle, and this is pretty cool for her to be here at baseball game, but that's not the only thing going on with her this week, and Jim kind of explained that.
She might not think it's all that cool, considering yesterday she got to go swim with whale sharks. So, I mean, for me to be able to help out them, I mean, I have a little girl about the same age as Grace, and I can't even imagine what their family's going through on a day-to-day basis. And, I just figured, what's one more person that can help?
So, Jim, indeed, folks, very close to the story, as you can see, and wanted to be involved in that, not just because he has a little girl about the same age as young Grace, but just to hear the story. And Grace initially fell down when she was at church last November, and that's when the diagnosis was happened right after that. But very brave little girl, and all of Braves country can, like I said, go to the Facebook page and get involved with Grace and with DIPG in a positive way if you would love to.
Thank you, Andre. Grace not the only fighter in her family. Her father, Scott, is in the U.S. Army Special Forces and was in Afghanistan when he found out that his daughter had the disease, DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. And if you would like to find out more or contribute to the Grace White Foundation, we certainly encourage you to do so. It's helpfightdipgforgrace.org. That is the website. And we salute Grace and her family and wish her the best. And our thanks to Jim Johnson for pointing out that terrific little girl, her family, and her affliction. Here's AJ. And he strokes one into right field, a base hit. Braves getting it done with 2 outs. And Justin Grimm is greeted rudely by the Braves catcher. First and second now for Andrelton Simmons. Showed you the graphic on how cold Jace Peterson's bat has been. Andrelton Simmons is right there. He's now 4 for his last 24. His average dwindling down to 252.
I like what you're doing, Chip. We talked about Markakis not being, and John Hart said, a true number 4 hole hitter, and he hits a double off the wall. We said Peterson's struggling, same thing. I like your style right now.
Just put it in play. Put it in play. Hit it the other way if you can. And Simmons does that. He's a tough out. Didn't get it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Grimm's 26. He'll turn 27 in August. He was acquired from Texas with Mike Olt for C.J. Edwards and Neil Ramirez for Matt Garza. And Grimm missed outside. 2 balls and a strike.
Joe Madden going to one of his best relievers. Grimm with the 1.19 ERA, 11 walks, 36 strikeouts. Key part of the game right here. Very important. We'll see who's able to answer the challenge.
Didn't get the corner. 3 balls and a strike. Grimm threw in 73 games for the Cubs last year. He won 5 of them. He's out of Bristol, Virginia. And the University of Georgia. The pitch is taken low by Andrelton Simmons. So the bases are loaded, and Yuri Perez is coming up. So an odd inning. The catcher's interference got things started. Uribe beat a double play at first. Now the Przinsky single and the Simmons walk has it set up for Perez.
But we talk about the little things. It's nice that you mentioned Uribe right there. Just the little hustle, beating out the throw to first, enables this inning to continue, and anything can happen from here on out. It could be the turning point of the game.
Chris Bosio is going to tell his young bulldog to hunker down. He's got to. No place to put Yuri Perez. Bases are loaded. Braves have done a good job hitting with the sacks full this year. Braves are hitting .314 with a runner at every base. This is Perez's first such opportunity. And a strike outside corner. Perez making his 15th start. He's got a hit in 11 of those 15. Bouncing ball toward short. Tough play. Castro makes it and throws a strike to first. That will end the Atlanta 6th. Off we go to the 7th. We're still tied. Matt Coney and the best flight crew in the business. On Thursday, when we make our way to St. Louis, then on to Baltimore, and then to Philadelphia. Fans, what are you most excited to see in the second half of the season? Tweet us at Fox Sports South using hashtag Braves playoff push. And your tweet could be read during Braves Live after the game. Luis Avilan takes over. He's the fourth hurler of the night. And he's got the bottom part of the order coming up for the Cubs. The first spot is the pitcher's spot.
I like that walk to strikeout ratio. 8 walks to 29 strikeouts. You'd like to see the ERA a little bit lower as a reliever, but for the most part this year, especially early, he came in and did a great job.
Chris Denorfia is going to lead things off. We're in the fateful 7th. And way outside from Luis. 1 ball, no strikes. Phillies won tonight. They beat Miami 6-3. Jeff Francoeur hit a home run for the Phillies. Dodgers still lead Washington 2-1. That's in the 5th. Cardinals 2-1 over the Mets in the 6th. Giants Arizona just underway out west. And the Brewers lead the Pirates 2-0. Pittsburgh's in Milwaukee. They've closed within 2.5 games of St. Louis, Paul, but they've got to find a way to win at Miller Park. That's been a house of horrors for them in recent years.
It really has, and it's unusual. But yeah, you're right on with that. And as you say, these Cubs right here will be interesting to see if they're able to make a little push. I think they could go either way, and I'm impressed that they're 7 games over 500, and they have an easier part of their schedule coming up, and they're not hitting 270 as a team. You know, they're hitting 230.
Simmons deep short, long throw, got him by a step. In the first days of Juan Uribe's career with the Braves, he would have gone for that ball. He's learned to play with Andrelton Simmons at left, and that defies conventional wisdom. Third baseman's supposed to get anything he can cut off.
He is, unless you have an all-star shortstop who I felt should have been on the team because his defense is incredible and can throw the ball 100 miles an hour. across the diamond when he plants. Clocked at 92 miles an hour one time in midair, twisting and having nothing to push off of. I can tell you, as a pitcher who gets on the mound and really had trouble throwing that hard, that's crazy impressive.
Addison Russell skies one foul and out of play. It's 0-1.
And I think of the days where Ozzie Smith made the All-Star team over and over again and didn't have to hit, but now the game has changed and the fans want to see high average or a lot of home runs, and that's, in my opinion, losing a little bit of value for the most important defensive position on the field, in my opinion, which is shortstop, and a guy that's the best in the world at it.
No balls, 2 strikes. And that popped out of AJ's glove. He handed it by Russell, but he just got a piece to stay alive. Cubs need to draft a middle infielder whose first name is Clark. And they'd have Clark and Addison playing in a ballpark that's located at Clark and Addison in downtown Chicago. Just saying. 2-strike pitch popped up. Right side, Kelly Johnson says he's got it, and he does. 2 out.
I'm glad you cleared that up for me, because only you would know the street names exactly outside of Wrigley in the intersection, because I was a little bit lost on the broadcast here, so that's much
Addison
appreciated.
and Clark and Waveland and Sheffield. Wrigley Field's getting a whole bunch of renovations done. A lot of video boards now. The outfield bleachers are all done. And now they're working on new clubhouses for the home and visiting clubs. And by the time you and I are 75, they'll have air conditioning in the press box. We got that to look forward to.
Well, last year with Fox Sports, I was roaming the crowd, and I was able to go sit up in the bleachers in your grandfather's restaurant up top.
Oh, in the rooftops?
I was.
Yeah.
One of my lifelong dreams as a player, and I finally got to do it last year. Just what a great environment to watch baseball and experience it. It's an event.
Did you pay full fare?
I did not. They're the greatest fans in the world. I didn't get heckled. Nobody threw beer on me. Nobody spit
So
at me.
you're saying you didn't help the inheritance, is what you're telling me. You didn't pay? Man, that's wrong. 2-0 pitch. Foul back to the screen. 2 balls and a strike.
Because of you, next time I make it back, I'll pay double.
Perfect. All right, I like that. I'll tell you what. You just go ahead and give me the money now, and I'll make sure you have a real good ticket when we head up to Chicago in August. 2-1 pitch for Dexter Fowler. And he strokes that one into the seats and out of play. 2-2. Great Friday night crowd in Atlanta. Cubs draw everywhere. But summertime, Friday night fireworks always has the seats full. And right now we're tied at 2 apiece. And a line drive by Dexter Fowler. So Fowler has his first hit, but he's aboard for a 3rd time, and now the Braves have to find out how to get Kyle Schwarber out. All he's done is go 3 for 3 with a run scored.
He's been outstanding, but Luis Avalon, when he's aggressive, usually gets the job done. You can see he's pitching off of the right side of the rubber because he has that sinker. Great stuff when he stays ahead as a left-hander that can throw in the mid-90s, which is rare. He's very, very effective. And so now I'm interested to see how Schwarber does with that, because he's not used to seeing lefties that has that kind of explosive fastball.
With Luis, though, you always have to wonder about the reverse splits. Lefties hit him very well. It's the righties that have normally been easy for Avalon to retire. Is there an advantage here with a rookie in this lefty-lefty matchup?
Yes, there is. And as you saw that pitch right there, fastball 93 miles an hour on the inside part of the plate that tied up Schwarber. As long as he hits his spot in there, he's going to be fine because Schwarber doesn't see that. Now, righties don't hit him well because his balls break away from the right-handed hitter. The sinker got a good changeup, but he doesn't have that nasty breaking ball that you usually see from a left-hander coming out of the pin.
1 strike instead to first.
So you'll see as Pierzynski sets up the middle, on the inside part of the plate. It doesn't mean that he won't throw one or throw a breaking ball away, but his strength is into a left-handed hitter, which is very rare for a left-handed reliever. And they're going to go fastball in again here.
Schwarber didn't even move.
He wants no piece of that. That's 93 miles an hour tailing up and in. And that's just a tough pitch to hit and keep fair.
Taken high. 2 balls, 1 strike. That's a good spot. 2-2.
I like this matchup. A.J. Pierzynski continuing to pound the inside part of the plate with the fastball. Again, Avalon hitting his spots most of the time, and if he continues to do so, he'll be effective. The balls that have been away from Teheran or right-handers, Schwarber has pulled it into the hole, so he's already proven that he can hit the fastball away and the slider away when elevated.
Runner goes. The pitch popped up toward us. And back out of play. We'll do it again. This will be the only inning Avalon fires tonight. Pitcher spot is due first after the 7th inning stretch.
So here's that cat and mouse game we talk about between the pitcher and catcher. Avalon's thrown 5 or 6 fastballs, sinkers on the inside part of the plate, up and in. Does he go to a breaking ball here with the 2-2 count, or does he continue to exploit up and in to Schwarber, which he seems to be having a problem with?
He's got Fowler picked off with a good throw. Inning over. Avalon didn't have to throw a pitch to Schwarber. He picks off Dexter Fowler. Couple of base running blunders by the Cubs in the ball game. They both have been costly. 7th inning stretch. Hey, let's get some runs. It's 2-2. To our AT&T Uverse trivia question. Chris Bryant leads the Cubs with 51 runs batted in this year. Since 1990, which rookie third baseman has the most runs batted in a single season?
Well, Chip, I'm terrible at trivia, I was going to say David Wright. I'm going to stick with that, but it has absolutely no connection to the Cubs or Braves, so I know I'm wrong, but that's my best guess.
I was going to say Chipper Jones, so I'm going to say Chipper Jones. Let's see if we're right. It's Ryan Zimmerman. 110 RBIs. So you don't think of Zimmerman anymore because he plays first base. But a terrific third baseman before shoulder injuries sent him across the diamond for the Washington Ball Club.
I'm batting 0.00 on the trivia question over the last 2 years.
So we're going to call you Blutarski for the rest of the series. Hector Rondon will come on to pitch for the Cubs.
Mr. Blutarski.
Yeah, our producer Brian Woodrum brings up a good point. You're doing as well in trivia as Freddie Freeman, who was 0 for the Colorado series. He tried to help us out with the trivia questions and went 0 for 4.
There's Freddie, hoping to get him back soon.
Pedro Siriaco will hit for Avalon. Rondon on in the 7th for Chicago. Well, Pedro's been a nice addition to the club. Excellent work as a pinch hitter for the Braves this year. That's his overall body of work. He's 7 for 20 in a pinch. It's a .350 average. He's got good speed. Let's see if he can get on against a man throwing 99 miles an hour. That is a tough assignment.
Hector Rondon bringing the fastball, ERA to 2.17, 8 walks and 32 strikeouts on the year. Another power arm out of that Chicago pen. Talking to Braves trainer Jeff Porter, who was a trainer as far back as in the 80s, and he said, you know, in the 80s, and I was drafted in 88 and then again in 91.
99 right on by.
Not much chance of that. He made the point that if you threw in the 90s, you were either a starter or a closer. And now you have to throw in the 90s just to get drafted. And, you know, if you threw 95, you were the hardest thrower in the organization. Now each organization seems to have a plethora, how about that word, of relievers that throw mid-90s and above.
How about the strategy by Joe Madden, who was chased from the screen on that foul ball attempt? Rondon leads their club in saves, right? 12 saves. He's pitching in the 7th inning.
I didn't understand that either. But I'm sure he has a reason and will be questioned about it after the game.
1 ball, 1 strike. And that's taken high by Jace. It's 2-1. Peterson with a 5th inning double. One of the 4 hits Kyle Hendricks allowed in the game. Surrendered 2 runs. Teheran went 4 2/3 innings with 2 runs allowed. Game in the hands of the bullpens now. Home 7th. And inside, ball 3. 3 balls and a strike. Rondon is out of Venezuela. A Rule 5 pick from the Indians. And saved 29 games last year, and he just issued a 1-out walk.
That's a heck of a Rule 5 draft right there.
Yeah. 29 for 33 in saves last year. Tommy John surgery in 2010. Then had a second elbow surgery in December of 2011. He had a fractured elbow. Missed most of 2011 and 2012. That's amazing. This man missed almost 3 full seasons because of arm problems. Now back throwing 98, 99 miles an hour. He's been their closer, but he's pitching in the 7th tonight.
That would explain the Rule 5. For those of you who don't know, the Rule 5 for a player is not on the protected roster, 40-man roster, and they have a certain amount of minor league time, another team may purchase them, bring them over, but they will have to stay in the big leagues for a year.
Like Andrew McCarrahan when he comes back. So runner at first. Let's see if that affects Rondon's velocity. And Maven takes a strike. Took a little off, and he eased one over at 96. Cameron has singled, walked, and scored to highlight his night.
As you mentioned earlier, Cameron Maven doing a great job working with hitting coach Kevin Seitzer. This is a situation where you really don't need, I mean, you'd like to have the two-run home run, but if a guy's throwing 99 and you put a nice swing on it, you're going to get that double in the gap. The ball's going to jump off the bat. Peterson's got to be a little careful there. Barely made it back.
And for Maben, the advantage of that base on balls for Peterson, who represents the go-ahead run. Rizzo has to hold him at first. Even if you swing late, you've got a gigantic hole to play with on the right side of the infield between Addison Russell and Anthony Rizzo, who's protecting the first base bag.
And something that's not discussed a lot is the more that you throw to first, the harder it is to throw a strike and hit your spot at home, because it's a different movement. It's a snap throw. You're throwing from your ear. It's not a long arm pitching delivery throw. And so the more you throw over.
And they just picked off Peterson. It was close the throw before. That time Peterson was picked off. And Jace awaits his fate. Another look.
This is that dart throw we talked about. Notice how he doesn't have a long deliberate pitching motion. The arm stays right by the ear. And it may have a complaint here as the Braves are going to challenge, it looks like.
The call was out at first. Tim Timmons rang up Jace Peterson at first base. And now we'll wait to see if there is clear and convincing evidence to overturn this call at first base. Safe or out?
I've got him safe. I think he got his arm back in there before the tag was applied.
The tag was on his side. I mean, below the armpit. Let's see from this angle. What you can't tell from the angles we have is if there's a leather lace of the glove of Rizzo and that touches the uniform of Jace Peterson, that's all they need for the base runner to be out. You know what the home crowd thinks? They think Jace was back safely. Cubs made a successful challenge earlier tonight on a ground ball off the bat of Johnny Gomes. Here's another look.
There's the dart throw. Excellent location, good tag, but I got Jace getting back under the tag. I think there's enough evidence to overrule it. But I may be a little biased, Chip. It's amazing to me how much this has changed the game. Where usually we may have a shouting match going on right now at first base and some dirt getting kicked on somebody or some chest bumping or yelling and somebody getting thrown out of the game. Now the strategy is I've got to delay it a little bit and find out from Horacio Ramirez, our guy back up in the clubhouse, what his thoughts are. But I do like it. I think it's about getting the call right. It's very important. And umpires cannot be perfect. I mean, here we are deciding whether or not he was out or safe on a slow motion replay. They got to decide in an instant.
That last angle we showed you, from that vantage point, it appeared that Peterson got his hand to the bag just before Rizzo slapped the glove down on Jace Peterson's right side below the armpit. So we have our verdict, and Jace Peterson is out. Call stands.
I disagree with that totally, Chip. And I don't know if broadcasters have a flag to throw from the press box, but I would throw it right now.
Well, that's what makes this part of replay so difficult. If there isn't enough evidence to change the call, then the call by the umpire has to take precedence. So that changes the inning dramatically. And Maben takes low, 1 ball, 1 strike. Instead of a runner at first and 1 out, now Rondon can go back to the windup with 2 outs.
I'm shocked. We saw it from 2 different angles. I had him an easy safe on both. And I'm shocked that he's out.
Strike 3, inside corner. Rondon with a couple of strikeouts and a pickoff in the 7th inning. Pretty impressive work. Off we go to the 8th. 2-2 your score.
Injections, and I think we're going to be sending him out on a rehab either early next week, maybe late this weekend, maybe Sunday or Monday, and then we'll see where it goes. It could be a week to 10 days after that.
So from a conversation I had earlier today with Braves President John Hart, they're talking about Freddie Freeman and the possibility of him finally getting back on the field at some point. There was obvious disappointment in Braves country when we saw the interview that John had in the AJC over the past couple of days that Freddie's not responding as quickly as they had thought or hoped to happen. But a little positivity today from John Hart and also from Freddie Gonzalez to say that Freddie, who you guys have seen in the dugout tonight, more positive spirits today because a little bit of that pain has gone away. And a best case scenario, maybe he gets down to Orlando to get some swings in on Sunday or Monday and before a 10-day stint to kind of get the thing a little bit better and hopefully get him back to first base, Chip.
Yeah, anytime you can get Freddie Freeman back, sooner or later, don't care. Get this guy back. Help this Braves offense. So certainly more encouraging news that he may be ready to go out on a rehab. Rodis Vizcaino, first pitch to Kyle Schwarber. Kelly Johnson flips to the pitcher covering, and Vizcaino gets the Chicago catcher. 1 pitch and 1 out.
Well, there's how you get him out with that low fastball. Vizcaino, not a lot of work, but you like that ERA. In 3 innings, has come up and done a very nice job, and that was a big out. As you see the smiles, Uribe coming over. I love Juan Uribe. You know, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a World Series champion. He has fun. He always smiles. He can hurt you with the long ball, but he plays the game the right way, and he's great energy in the clubhouse, and he's really been a nice addition to this club.
I couldn't agree more. Chris Bryant is 0 for 2. He's also walked, and that's low and outside. Bryant, the subject of our Georgia Lottery hitting the jackpot feature. Bryant's got to be in the conversation for the National League Rookie of the Year.
You see right there the RBIs. 51 first in the league after missing the first month of the season. He has just come on the scene and done what everybody expected him to, display incredible power. And once he starts to hit that ball away better, that average will come up a little bit, and he'll be one of the premier players in the game if he's not already.
And that was a big source of controversy by some in Chicago. Chris Bryant was one of the best players for the Cubs coming out of spring training. As Vizcaino's behind 3-0. And a line drive to Uribe. Bryant had the green light. And Juan's there for the second out. What the fans in Chicago, or some of them, don't understand is that until 6 years of control is better than 7, the Cubs did the right thing to keep Bryant in the minor leagues until they did.
Now that's a 98-mile-an-hour fastball in the inside corner, and you can see Chris Bryant has no problem turning on it. Uribe smiling like they're feeling like a hockey goalie chip. That ball came down there quick. So he's showing you right there the nitro zone. Hey, don't miss in or challenge me. It doesn't matter how hard you throw it, I can hit it.
Bryant along with Jace Peterson, who also participated in the home run derby. There's Manny Tomas of the Diamondbacks. More offensive players, has to be in that Rookie of the Year conversation. Chris Heston of the Giants has 9 wins. He's in the top 10 in rookie ERA. Game started, and leads the National League in strikeouts as a rookie. So those are 3 potential first-year award winners. And don't forget, Chris Heston also threw a no-hitter this year. 1 ball, 2 strikes for Rizzo, and he's down on strikes. Vizcaino, former Cub and a current Brave. He dealt in the 8th inning. 3 up, 3 down. Heart of the order coming up for Atlanta. It's still a 2-2 game.
Pixels in theaters July 24th. And your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places.
Big crowd tonight in Atlanta. 42,532. And they've seen a good game. 2-2. Braves jumped in front 1-0 in the first. Cubs came back with 2 in the third. Atlanta tied it with a single run in the third, and that's where we stand. It's a battle of the bullpens, and now it's Pedro Strop on to pitch. I'm told the Cubs have gone to a closer by committee right now. So Rondon works 7th, Strop the 8th. Jason Mott might be the man that gets the ball at the end of the game if things work out the way the Cubs hope they do.
Well, I certainly trust Joe Maddon. He does know what he's doing. As you can see, Markakis having a nice night there with an RBI double. But your closer needs to be the guy with the best stuff. And if he's not going bad or in a tough stretch, he needs to be the guy that closes out the game. If you bring a guy with the best stuff in the 7th inning, and then the guy that throws the 8th or the 9th is a letdown, then the hitters get more energy, and like the toughest guy's out of the way. So I don't necessarily understand this move, but I do trust Joe Maddon and think he has a reason for it. He's one of my favorites in the game. There he is. And I got to tell you this, Chip. You see that jacket? If he took that jacket off, you would see number 70. He wears number 70, and no, he's not a pulling guard. He used to wear number 20 as a young coach with the Angels, and our own Don Sutton came over with the Angels and took number 20 away for him, and they gave him number 70.
Huh. Didn't know that.
And from then on, he said, I'm not switching. And they said, come on, that's a ridiculous number for a baseball player. He said, I'm not doing it. And he has fun with that number. And over the years, he said Don Sutton has been very classy in giving him a number of gifts, peace offerings, for getting that number. Very classy of Don. And
pretty sure it has something to do with vintage. Just a guess.
You are spot on.
Kelly Johnson, the batter. 1 out for the Braves. Swing and a miss from Pedro Strop. Strop just turned 30 about a month ago. He came over from Baltimore with Jake Arrieta and 2 international signing bonus slots for Scott Feldman and Steve Clevenger. That's how you pronounce Steve's name. And Strop's done good work with the Cubs. 2.21 ERA last year in 65 games, better than a strikeout per inning pitched. Wears his cap Fernando Rodney style too. Did you see that?
I was going to say CC Sabathia, like a left-hander, but I think you're right.
Line drive into right field. That's in for a hit. Kelly's thinking 2 out of the box. He's around first. Soler's throw to second is late. There's the winning run for Atlanta. A 1-out hustle double by Kelly Johnson, who has a pair of hits tonight.
We've talked about it before. You see the little pause at the top of the delivery right there. The curveball misses over the middle part of the plate. Kelly Johnson staying back. He's not fooled. He reads curveball all the way and deposits it in the right field gap. Right field foul line. Got a little wheels, and Kelly Johnson again, just big hit after big hit, RBI in the right spot. I'm not saying he's going to score, and it's the hit of the game, but it certainly gives the Braves the opportunity to make something happen.
Uribe takes low and inside, 1 ball, no strikes. Uribe is 0 for 2 in his career against Pedro Strop. A shot toward first, throw back toward second unnecessarily by Rizzo, but Castro was right there. 2 outs, and here's A.J. Pierzynski. And the Cubs will not take a chance with A.J. Pierzynski. They'd much rather pitch to the struggling Andrelton Simmons. So an intentional walk put runners at first and second and 2 outs.
Anytime I walked a player as a pitcher intentionally, I knew that guy on deck was mad, and I needed to buckle down and make my pitch. You always need to do that, but it doesn't feel good pitching around. You know, when they pitch around the hitter in front of you to get to you, and you could always tell when that guy got in the batter's box. There's a little extra intensity there.
Well, there's a chance for Andrelton to be a 2-out hero. Again, all 2 Braves runs have been plated with 2 outs in an inning. Kelly's getting a big lead out at second. The pitch nearly hit him. 1 ball, no strikes. Foul to the plate. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Now Strop staying on the right side of the left side of the rubber by first base. So he has a great fastball in the upper 90s, but he really has trouble finishing on that breaking ball. If he's on the third base side, he has something to pull against. He does have to finish it and get out in front, but you would see a better break on that curveball, and one of the reasons he's struggling, and it's lagging arm side.
Outside, just missed.
Here's that first pitch as soon as he's on the first base side of the rubber. He flies open right here, front shoulder, leaks, and he leaves the ball on the inside part of the plate, which is arm side. He's right-handed, having trouble finishing that breaking ball tonight.
Two and two.
And now he mixed in a little Louis T on right there with a little look to second base. Got a little extra turn. That's tough to do.
2 on, 2 out, 2-2 pitch. Nice stop by the catcher. For all the talk about Schwarber and his defensive work, yeah, he had a bad throw earlier in the game, but from a pitching standpoint, what do you think of your first look at the Cubs rookie backstop?
I think he's done okay. I do think he's serviceable. I think he's young. He's learning. I mean, this is a young man who's drafted last year, so we have to be fair in saying that he's got a little ways to go, but he is better than I expected, and he's an even better hitter than I thought.
And that's saying something after he's gone 3 for 4 in his recall from the minor leagues. Again, Miguel Montero disabled, bad thumb. So Schwarber up. Now 3-2 pitch, runners go. Ball 4, he lost it. So Strop angry. And now Yuri Perez is the hitter, and there's no place to put him. New set of strikes for Atlanta. Bases loaded.
So you talked about Schwarber's catch and chip. I want you to watch his glove right here. It's supposed to be away. It's not. It's inside. And so he stabs at it, and the glove actually goes all the way down and hits the ground. So you're not going to get a call there. And you probably weren't going to get a call anyways, but if he had soft hands and was able to receive that without giving the illusion that the ball was going to bounce, that's what you look for when you talk about receiving. So there's 2 different things I look for. Can a guy throw a runner out where you have to respect him? And then is he going to take pitches away from me, or is he going to give me pitches?
Well, and now with the go-ahead run 90 feet away, if Strop throws the ball in the dirt, we'll see if Schwarber can block another one. He's already had 1 block in this inning.
One of my favorite catchers, this is a long time ago, was Charlie O'Brien. And he would never seem that he never moved his glove. And I talked to him one time.
Line drive, base hit by Perez. 1 run scores. Here comes AJ around third. Soler's throw is off target. It gets away. 2 runs are in. Yuri Perez with 2 outs after back-to-back walks has put the Braves in front.
Perez getting that fastball over the middle, driving it the other way. He doesn't try to pull it or do too much. And he is rewarded with a nice double at a crucial part of the game.
Yuri Perez with a 2 RBI hit. And the Braves now lead 4-2 and look for more. Arodys Vizcaino is scheduled. Now it's Joey Trdoslavich. So Vizcaino in line to win it. I'm assuming Jim Johnson is the man up and throwing in the Braves bullpen. He is. He'll have the bottom part of the order coming up in the 9th for Chicago. Lined and out. And that's the inning. Joey T turned around a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. But Yuri Perez with a 2-run hit to right plates a pair, and we go to the 9th with Atlanta trying to close out the Cubs. This Tuesday, July 21st, when the Braves take on the Dodgers. First 20,000 fans through the door get a bobblehead featuring Freddie Freeman hugging Johnny Gomes. Don't miss out on this limited edition bobblehead. Go to Braves.com/tickets today. We have one of those Freddie Freeman bobbleheads in the booth. And as Jim Johnson loosens up, he seeks his 6th save. What's now a 4-2 Atlanta game. And here at long last, it's a quick look at the bobblehead.
Very nice. A lot of detail right there. And we have Freddie with a little stubble. And I can honestly say that I have never seen a bobblehead that involved hugging.
Well, that's what we love about baseball, Paul. You come to the ballpark, you never know what you'll see. As Jorge Soler leads off for Chicago in the 9th inning. Yuri Perez with a bases loaded hit. Told you the Braves have been oh so good with the sacks full this year. A 2-run hit makes it a 4-2 game. And we're now in the 9th. Soler, a big base running mistake earlier in the game. After he knocked in a pair of runs with a single in the 3rd, he inexplicably tried to go to second base and was thrown out from here to Winnetka and didn't even bother to slide. And that had Joe Madden shaking his head. It could have led to a much bigger inning for the Cubs.
Well, the point we were making, he could have just turned right back around, gone to first, or gotten a rundown with a chance to get Rizzo to score, but he didn't. One of Joe Madden's rule is called respect 90, which means the distance from home plate to first base, 90 feet. Respect that. Go hard. Give it your all. Hustle. That's something you can control. And I think Soler would be the first to tell you that he should have done a better job getting in a rundown and making a better effort.
2 balls, 2 strikes for the Cubs right fielder. Chicago's bullpen let him down tonight. It's inside. They pitched around A.J. Przinsky and went after Anderson Simmons, who's in a dreadful slump. The key play in the inning, Strop walked him. That brought up Perez. And now a shot down the right field line. Foul ball. Soler will head back to the plate.
Somebody's happy.
Strike 3 over the outside corner at 96. That was a filthy pitch.
I talked to Jim Johnson and I said, what are you trying to do? He said, I want to get an out on 3 pitches or less. I don't necessarily want to strike somebody out, but he has the uncanny ability to throw a 96-mile-an-hour sinker that goes straight down. It's late, and that's why you'll see him get a lot of cheap hits on the infield where guys just nub it and it rolls 10 feet in front of home plate. I am not worried about him being the closer at all. I know it hurt to lose Grilly. We all love Jason Grilly, wish him the best, and can't wait for him to come back next year. But I'm not concerned about Jim Johnson closing. He's going to be fine. He's done it before. He's got closer stuff. He's outstanding. It just hurts to lose him in that setup role, getting to Grilly.
Back-to-back 50 save seasons for Jim Johnson with the Orioles. Then last year, inexplicably, Jim just had a rotten run with Oakland. Trying to rediscover the magic here in Atlanta. He's an out away from picking up a save. There's the second of the 9th inning. And again, let's be honest, Jim Johnson, with his experience, his pedigree, his stuff, relief pitching, especially pressure-packed 9th inning guys, are very valuable commodities. What would a guy like Jim Johnson mean to the Cubs, for example? That sinker in their ballpark? Don't know. But the Braves happy with the results so far tonight. 2 outs, and here's Starlin Castro. Cub fans are quiet. Braves fans are chanting. High, ball 1. One ball, 1 strike.
We have a cute little Cubs fan there. I'm pulling for the Braves still, but I can't look at her because I'll feel bad.
Don't. 3 generations have gone through what she's about to go through. She can handle it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ground ball out to second. Jace has it. And it's a great start to the second half for the Braves. They pick up 2 in the bottom of the 8th inning on a Yuri Perez bases loaded single. And the Braves beat the Cubs by a final score of 4-2. It's the 8th consecutive win by the Braves over the Chicago Cubs in the head-to-head series. Good ball game on a hot night in Atlanta. 4-2 your final. We'll recap it for you from Turner Field after this.